What is up, you steaming, filthy pack of degenerates? How's everybody doing? It's Monday. It's time. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Clint, and we have UFC back in town, baby. We had a break week last week. We got a little bit of PFL and Bellator action in, but the big show is back. The UFC is back. We're going to talk some fights. UFC Vegas 34 this evening, and of course, later on in the week, I'll probably find a way to bet on PFL and Bellator because they both have pretty solid cards coming up before the UFC fights on Saturday. We've already got 60 people live in the chat here this evening. I hope you all are well. Thank you so much for joining your Monday nights here with me. And first and foremost, I've got to give a shout out to my boy Abs Royval. Let's go. For those of you who don't know, your boy has hit a massive milestone. That's right, 10,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you all very much. I've got the best, absolute best fans and people and community the world has ever seen, especially for sports betting. We're a lot more positive than 90% of the other people out there doing this kind of bullshit. And as is customary, whenever I do giveaway nights, the first person in the chat is entitled to a giveaway. Abs, my friend, you won our first giveaway of the night. That's right, we're doing t-shirts. We're giving away some merch, and I've got you down here. If you win a giveaway this evening, you can hit me up on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod so I can verify all your contact information because I will be shipping out some shirts. Those of you who are interested, we actually are going to be getting Die Hard MMA hats very, very soon. We don't have them yet. They're not ready. I was hoping I could show you guys an example of them, but they're not quite ready to go yet. What I can do is if you're not interested in the t-shirt, if you would prefer a Die Hard MMA hat, I will start a list. It may delay the process of you getting your swag that you get from the show this evening. Just a tad. Might delay it just a bit because they're not ready to go yet. But I will go ahead and give that option. So Abs, t-shirt or hat, your choice. Hit me up on Twitter. Joseph Nessim, Bob second in the chat. Just missed it. Sorry, buddy. Love you too. Muhammad Boston. We have got, oh geez, the chat always jumps on me right after the beginning. Johnny Dickinson. We've got WRX tuned up. T.O. Inkta. We have Derek Stover, my guy Michael Lunday. Welcome to the live chat, my friend. How you doing today? Mikey Raw 420. We've got Joseph McBride, Dylan Carter, Adam Canna. Maybe Canna. Took my best shot, Adam. I'm sorry. We've got the Undertaker, George Monterio. Just hit me. That might be Jorge Monterio. Again, apologize. Dylan Carter, Justin T, Ryan Grant, Parker Hayden. We've got Aiden Samo, Real Deal Prime. What's up? The crew is here. I'm just Drew in the house. All right. How's everybody doing? Oh, we're in for a treat tonight. I'm pumped up. I'm ready. I'm excited. PFL fights. I tweeted out some action. We were this close to hitting a plus 800 on OAM by TKO. The official did not stop the fight when many others would. I feel a little robbed. I feel a little dejected, but it also lets me know that my reads are still, this close to being on point. A different referee would have done the thing. So got to shake off the cobwebs and try to get something rolling. Speaking of getting something rolling, welcoming everybody back, getting back on track. There's only one man we're going to call to make sure that we right this ship. The one, the only man, Preach MMA Lock of the night. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It feels to have that 1 week off, coming off a nice pay-per-view that we had at UFC 265, I believe it was. Went out, visited the in-laws, took a week off, and just, flushed out the brain, reset the brain. Now I'm back at it, man. I'm excited for this card that we got this weekend. And I told you there's a reason I want to be on this specific episode because I'm actually going to be at the card this weekend, and I can't freaking wait for it. I'm super excited to have that UFC Apex experience, right? Just to be in there with having these world-class athletes and competing with each other with 50 to 100 people in the venue. The way that I kind of compared it to is like watching Dave Chappelle or something at a local comedy club or something, right? You're getting high quality fights in a small venue. So I'm very excited for that. But we got some interesting fights on the card, right? No big name value, but still very intriguing fights and fights that should produce some fireworks and some fun times for us. So I'm very much excited for that, brother.
I'm pumped, man. You know I love dumpster diving. This is one of those cards. This is one of those cards where, like you said, the name value just is not there. But these are really fun matchups, and there's giant gaping holes in some of these people's games. So I think we're going to see a lot of action. I think we're going to see a lot of finishes, and that leads to some hella fun nights and some good betting opportunities.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the bets that you've already dropped for the card, and I think some of us or some of the spots we align on. But I'm intrigued to see other spots how we actually differ on some of them. There's one that I feel like you're going to be betting that I feel like I'm actually going to be on the opposite side of, maybe not as an official bet on my side, but at least for a prediction. So yeah, I can't wait to get into this card and break it down with you, brother.
Pretty sure I already know which one that is. So, man, I'm pumped. I am pumped. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to do, Manpreet, I don't know if you caught the beginning of this bad boy. I hit 10K followers on Twitter this week, and we're celebrating by giving away some merch. So throughout the show, we're going to stop and pick some winners here and there. So we're going to tie that in. And if you don't mind, I want you to select the next person who gets a piece of merch. Whoever's scrolling through the chat right now that you want to pick out and say they're a winner, you go right for it. Have at it, man.
Let's see. There's a couple of regulars out here that I know that deserve it because they're big supporters. You know what? We're gonna go with my guy Ryan Grant here. That's my dude right there. I really appreciate the amount of support that he's been showing myself. And look at that Fab shirts right there. And I'm sure he's been supporting you a lot as well. And he's really been one of the more vocal ones about it too. So shout out to our guy Ryan Grant, always supporting the show as always. And there he goes, and he gets a die-hard shirt, I believe, or are you giving him a Fab shirt? What shirt are you giving him?
So you know what? I've got a box of shirts to give away. So if you pick a shirt, it's just going to be a random one from the pile. If you have purchased a die-hard shirt and you're already supporting the show, let me know what shirt you already have. I'll try not to double you up on the same shirt. And we're doing hats. So if they want to do a hat instead of a shirt, they're not done yet. They're not in production. Otherwise, I'd be rocking one right now. Need a haircut anyway. They can select a hat if they would prefer a hat instead of a shirt. So a couple of different options for the people. But Ryan Grant, congratulations. You're our next winner, and I've got you down here. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter.
Perfect. Shout out Ryan Grant once again.
Yep. Good call, Lock. I like it. Giving the OGs some love back.
Yes, sir.
All
yes,
right,
sir.
man.
Gotta show them that you appreciate it, right?
Of course. We got to make sure we give the love back. All right, let's get this damn thing started, man. Show on the road here. We have got first fight of the night. Sasha Palatnikov taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. And you mentioned a couple of bets that I've already made on this card, man. I absolutely have already locked in my first action for the night. Give everyone a little... spoiler bomb right off the bat here. I'm backing Ramiz Brahimaj in this spot, man. We've got Sasha Palatnikov, who's 6-3. Brahimaj is 8-3. Sasha, I have just a little bit of personal beef with because he ruined my parlay when he upset Louis Koski without, dying in the first round like I expected him to that night. This guy is aggressive. He's willing to brawl. He's got very underrated offensive wrestling. He does scramble pretty well, and he survives. He's one of these guys that gets hurt. He finds a way to dig deep and battle his way back into these fights. He's got pretty decent stand-up, good solid technical, keeps his hands low though is kind of the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of. He's very hittable and he swings wild when he gets hurt, man. That's something I noticed. He throws spinning back fists every once in a while that open him up, and he's got a nice step-in elbow. That was something I noticed that he throws that I really do enjoy. He's willing to change things around in the middle of the fight and kind of grind people up against the fence. Honestly, Sasha's got a very well-rounded skill set, and he moved to Syndicate MMA for this fight camp. So I think we are probably going to see a more improved version of him, but all three of his losses have come by way of finish. So if he loses, he's getting blown out. He's not getting out grinded by anybody. Ramiz Brahimaj, most of you probably remember, this is the guy that got his ear blown off by Max Griffin, right? And what I think we have here for this line is a perfect example of recency bias. We've got this kid, Ramiz Brahimaj, who everybody loved against Max Griffin. I mean, it was almost a foregone conclusion that he was going to step in and take out Max Griffin, and then he got pounded on for a full 15 minutes. Now here he is, pick'ems against Sasha, who's a guy that a lot of people don't consider UFC caliber at this stage. I mean, Ramiz may have struck for 15 minutes with Max Griffin, but that's because Max is freaking strong as hell, good takedown defense, and forced him to stand. I think we're going to go back to what we expected from Ramiz. I think he's going to go back to the grappling roots. We've seen Sasha is able to get bullied. We've seen him give up takedowns and accept bottom position and play from his back. So it's a bit of a long shot to assume that the grappling is the plan for Ramiz Brahimaj, but when he's an IBJJF world no-gi champion and he just got beaten up for 15 minutes on the feet, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to want to go back to his bread and butter for the next one. I wouldn't be shocked if Ramiz gets this guy out of here pretty much any way he chooses. I think he's going to take him down. I think he's going to rough him up. He's got a big, powerful right hand. He's extremely patient. He doesn't rush anything, so he'll find his spot. He'll pick his spot to get it done. But I think there's a good chance Ramiz wins this fight however he wants to. He can grind it out. He can get this guy on the floor, and we've seen Sasha give up submissions. And if Ramiz wants to pound him through the canvas, I absolutely think that he can do that too. I think we're getting an extremely short price on Ramiz here because he lost that fight that he was expected to win against Max Griffin, and I think we're getting a lot of value from it. So that's my first play of the night. Hammer on Ramiz Brahimaj, man. How do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, I like this matchup. Like, I think it will be an entertaining matchup. I think this is a spot where we could even look at the under 2.5 and probably get some good value on that around that -120 line. I'm expecting entertainment and fireworks from the get-go, especially with Ramiz having the fight that he had last time against Max Griffin. I feel like he let himself down, and obviously his coaches and everybody, because he didn't really follow a game plan that would have given him success, right? But then you also have to give credit to Max Griffin in terms of being able to keep it on the feet and just outstrike him the way that he did, not really allow him to close that distance enough to shoot in for a takedown. But it would have been nice to see Ramiz actually pursue that takedown a little bit harder rather than just kind of accepting being on the outside and just losing a decision. Well, actually close to losing a decision if he didn't lose his ear that night. But my only concern here with Brahimaj is the cardio. Like, if this fight does end up going into the third round, I feel like Sasha could have a little bit of an advantage there. Maybe not to the extent that he had over Luis Cosi 2 fights ago, where he's going to be able to finish Brahimaj or anything like that. But that is a little bit of a concern for me if Brahimaj doesn't get him out of there in the first 10 minutes or so. But luckily for Brahimaj, I think that Palatnikov's takedown defense is not that great. And I do think that we'll see Brahimaj be able to get this fight to the ground and then get his jiu-jitsu going. We all know he has a very stellar jiu-jitsu game, can find chokes, can find the arm, whatever it might be. The guy's very good on the ground, very well crafted. Palatnikov has shown decent ability to get back to his feet, but I don't think he's fought anybody like Brahimaj in his last several fights that's going to actually, help him in terms of preparing for a guy that's, that has the offensive onslaught in the jiu-jitsu realm that Brahimaj does. So, yeah, I do think that you're right in terms of a little bit of the recency bias with the line here. I think there's a ton of matchups on this entire card that have that similar stock, and I think we're going to be talking about that in the next fight here as well. But I do like Brahimaj here. My confidence level is definitely not as high as yours, but I definitely do think that we'll see him land the takedowns and probably get Palatnikov out of there in the first or second round. I'll be looking at the inside the distance for Brahimaj as well as the under 2.5 because I think both guys have finishing potential here, but I do think it's going to be Brahimaj that snatches up a choke of some sort probably in the first or second round of this fight.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm calling Brahimaj by submission is really my favorite way I think that this fight ends. And yeah, I feel you. Maybe I'm being a little bit bullish here. Maybe I'm a little bit overconfident here, but it's one of those spots where I've seen this story play out before. Like, I'm ultra confident on somebody. I see all the signs. I go all in on them and they get their ass whooped. Like, it was just too much to ask the first time out. The second time out, they come out and they're exactly the person I thought they were. And I just don't have the balls to sack up and bet them the second time around because I just got burned. So I'm kind of testing myself here. I'm going back to the well. I'm saying Brahimaj is absolutely the stellar prospect that we think he is. I think he's more than capable on the feet. He won't be out of water or anything like that in this fight against Sasha Palatnikov. And then I just think he's miles ahead of him on the ground. So with that huge advantage, I'm just going to roll with it and see what happens.
I'm just going to say this right off the bat, though. Be careful because I don't know that Palatnikov likes to go around and watch these other predictors channels. And he definitely gave me a ton of shit when I picked against him against Luis Cosi. If you guys go back and watch my my podcast I did for that card, you see one of his comments in the comment section. But after the Impa Kasang and I fight, this guy had nothing to say. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
Well, I have yet to be called out by an MMA fighter. I don't know that I necessarily want that experience. experience. I prefer celebrating with them when getting cheered on when I've won money on them. That's a lot more fun. So yeah, hopefully Sasha doesn't come after me on this one. Let me go ahead and get it out of the way that I respect every single MMA fighter that steps into the cage. We're talking betting here, so it's nothing personal.
Exactly. It's business, nothing personal, fellas.
Exactly. It's business. And I'm wrong plenty, so don't worry. I'm not trying to come after you. All right, man. Second fight of the night coming up here. We've got Roosevelt Roberts taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. Roosevelt Roberts is 10-2, Ignacio 11-4. And boy, you mentioned the recency bias. This one has it written all over it for both guys. This is such an interesting matchup here to me, man. I mean, Roosevelt Roberts, we remember him. He's coming off getting clubbed and subbed by Kroom his last fight out. Now, that's something that's not going to be a very good taste in a lot of people's mouths. He spoiled a lot of people's parlay tickets, I'm sure, that night. And they ruled it a no contest because Kroom was high. So don't be fooled by the record, folks. Roosevelt Roberts actually has another loss on it, and it's a loss by finish. Now, Roosevelt Roberts is a guy I can't quite wrap my brain around. He seems to be one of these fighters that has all the skills in the world, but just can't quite put it all together. He shits the bed at the worst times possible. I've backed him, and I've bet against him, and I've been burnt both ways. He's tall, he's long, he's got fast hands, he's actually got some pretty slick striking defense. Honestly, man, his best weapon is his right hand. He's also got a very intelligent jab, and he mixes in kicks really well. He likes to attack the lead inside leg kick. He's got a dangerous submission game when he can control the grappling, when he's on top of his opponents, and he jumps the ghillie. He absolutely has a nasty guillotine on him. The problem is, he's a guy that seems to be able to be submitted himself. He's a little overconfident. He's a little cocky. He kind of disregards his opponents and disrespects their skill sets, and he's paid for it several times. Now, Ignacio, this guy is huge for the division. He's absolutely massive for this weight class. And he's got a really high output. I like everything I see from Ignacio. He's got slick striking. He attacks the lead calf, long jab. He's got really great footwork. He's constantly circling, cutting angles, moving, and he's got really elusive head movement. He's hard to pin down. He's hard to hit. But one thing he does do is he mixes in takedowns. And when he does that, he has a tendency of leaving his neck out there. So I don't want to get too into, we try to bet numbers. We try not to predict exact outcomes. That's what sports betting is all about. But man, I've got a bad feeling that if I bet on Ignacio Bahamondes, he's going to stick his neck right into a guillotine. Like he's going to be winning the fight right up until the point that he decides to change levels, and then he's going to get freaking guillotined by Roosevelt Roberts. I think there's some serious value to be had on Ignacio Bahamondes just because of his size, his reach. I do give him an edge in the striking, and I don't know that Roosevelt Roberts is a good enough wrestler to get Ignacio Bahamondes on the ground where I think he would have an advantage. The issue is, again, if Ignacio Bahamondes, kind of helps him there and gets the fight to the ground himself, we may end up grappling, and that's where I feel like Roosevelt would have a decent, significant advantage in this spot. So kind of a dog or pass spot for me, but honestly, Locke, I'm a little too scared to pull the trigger on either side of this one. How do you see this fight playing out?
Well, we just talked about recency bias in the last one. You kind of started this breakdown off by speaking about the recency bias that's probably on both guys here. But I think it's more so on the Roosevelt Roberts side, where a lot of people were always high on this guy, right? Like he was more often than not the biggest favorite on every single card that he was fighting on because everybody believed in his talent, his potential. And, he goes out there and has solid wins, Jared Horcher and Austin Gifford, or Thomas Gifford, I believe the guy's name was. And then he started to fall into hard times a little bit. Vince Pichel, it was somebody that we're going to be talking about later on this card. Very solid fighter, more often than not very underrated. I believe he was a plus 200 underdog in that fight against Roberts. I think that line was disrespectful, and people were just really high on Roberts at that time. Obviously, since then, he was able to pull off 2 victories. And then he had that Jim Miller fight where I felt like it was more so of a fight IQ gap for him. I believe it was like a lazy kick that he threw that we saw Jim Miller actually take advantage of, get him to the ground, then eventually submit him. And, somebody who's only been doing MMA for 4 or 5 years, like Roosevelt Roberts has, you don't want to be on the ground with a guy like Jim Miller who has that type of black belt, right? So I'm going to chalk that up to just fight IQ mishap for Roosevelt Roberts, something that he definitely should have learned from there. Then in the next fight, Kevin Croom comes in on short notice. I believe that was 3-4 days notice. It wasn't that long at all. He came in super short notice, and I don't think Roberts respected him at all. I just think he just went in there thinking that he's just going to steamroll this guy, and Kevin Croom had absolutely different plans in that spot. He goes out there, clubs and subs, and gets him out of there, and I'm sure crashed many parlays for a lot of degenerate gamblers. But I think that Roosevelt Roberts is still the goods. I still think that he has a shot to go out there and achieve the potential that a lot of people put out for him. I think he has very slick boxing, good kickboxing as well, too, in terms of being able to land kicks consistently and kind of just damages opponents' movement and kind of render them immobile at times. But his boxing is very nice. I think he has decent striking defense as well. He rolls his head well. He gets off the center line a lot. His 1-2 down the middle is really nice as well. And he's usually the one that's the taller guy in his fights, right? He's 6'2". Ignacio Bahamondes is only 6'3", so he has a 1-inch height advantage on him. I think the reach advantage is only 1 or 2 inches for Bahamondes as well. But I think that Roberts brings so many good traits to this fight, and I think that you're kind of downplaying the level of his success that I believe Roberts will have in the grappling realm in this fight. I think he can get the takedowns here against Bahamondes, and I think that he could potentially find a sub of his own. Out of 4 losses on Bahamondes' record, 2 of them have been via submission. That seems to be a little bit of a spot that he struggles with a little bit. Like you said, lazy takedown attempts too. So if he wants to go in there, try to do a takedown or something like that, I think he might get caught in a guillotine from Roberts, who seems to have that guillotine down pat, especially if anybody gives him room under their neck. And then, if he goes out there, I think he can outstrike Bahamondes, who on paper looks like a better striker, right? Throws good combinations, good head kicks and all that type of stuff. But he is so goddamn hittable. Like, I don't know how you can go out there and get hit as many times as you did against a guy like John Makdessi, who, I believe was 5'7", 5'8". You're giving up a solid 5-6 inches in height to a guy in John Makdessi. And Makdessi was landing pretty much any shot that he wanted to there. I think Roberts will have much more success in that spot. And I think he'll be able to land takedowns here as well to kind of, control the fight and potentially open up a submission opportunity for himself, as I do believe that's a very underrated part of his game as well. Outside of the guillotine, like, he still has good slick jiu-jitsu moves on the ground that he should be able to maybe control Bahamondes on the ground, maybe find a submission opportunity of himself, should be able to pass on Bahamondes' guard without much issue. I think that this is a huge buy low spot for Mr. Roosevelt Roberts, and I'm probably going to pull the trigger on him, man. Even at this -140 spot, -145 that he's currently at, I think there's some solid value there, considering the public perception of him is not that great, and that's where we have to take advantage of these moments as predictors and analysts and handicappers. You have to look at these inefficiencies at times. Like, you have Roosevelt Roberts, who had 2 bad fights last time around, but that doesn't take away from the fighter that he truly could be, especially against a guy here in Bahamondes who, what's his path to victory? Hail Mary knockout? Like, could he win a decision? Possibly. He has some good volume, but the issue is he's so hittable that I think that anytime, Bahamondes maybe gets 3 or 4 strikes out of there, we could see Roosevelt Roberts land 1 or 2 much more significant strikes that it's probably going to open up Bahamondes and probably sway the judges even more. So yeah, I really didn't think I'd have action on this fight pre-tape, but after running the tape myself, man, I am impressed, and I still believe that Roosevelt Roberts has a lot to go out there and showcase to us, and I think that this is a perfect matchup for him to bounce back and get back into the win column. So yeah, I'm on Roberts, and even if I don't make him my official lock of the night play, I'm probably still going to have some good money on him, because I think that this is a great spot and buy low spot as well.
Okay. Man, I love the angle, and I absolutely love the breakdown, and I'll be honest, I was ready to jump. I saw plus money on Ignacio Bahamondes, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. And then I pumped the brakes, I watched the tape, and I'm seeing a lot of the same things you are. So this is absolutely going to be one. And shout out to our guy in the chat that was saying, what are the odds Clint ends up pulling the trigger on this by fight time? No, y'all know me way too well. But no, I can't bet Ignacio Bahamondes here. I can't do it. So my brain is telling me it's a dog or pass situation, but from what I've seen in the matchup, from what they do, I can't do it. And I do think that, like you said, kind of in a different terms, Roosevelt Roberts is a guy that's paid his dues. Like, Ignacio is still so young. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's got a high ceiling. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Ignacio Bahamondes in the future, but he's running into another guy who is one step ahead of him. He was that struggling up-and-comer with talent 2 years ago. Now he's fought some big names. Now he's fought some guys. He's taken his L's. He's made some dumb mistakes. I think you're right. I think it's a bit of a buy low spot on Roosevelt Roberts. And if I'm going to do anything, I might just be betting Roosevelt Roberts by submission, because I think we'll probably get a decent line on that. And again, I do think that's probably the most likely outcome here.
I like that as well. And again, I think the Kevin Kroom loss is probably the best thing that's going to happen to Roosevelt Roberts in terms of being able to like go out there and be like, okay, I got to respect everybody that's ahead of me, because I can't just think I'm going to, go out there and have a shiny 8-0 record. The Vinc Pichel fight to be like, okay, I'm the shit. You got to run into some adversity early in your career to truly, iron out those mistakes and those inefficiencies in your game, or your lack of respect for your opponent at times. And I think that's what he did against Kevin Kroom. And I think we should see a solid performance this weekend against Ignacio Bahamondes. And again, I feel very, very strong about this spot. So we'll see how the line goes, and maybe I pull the trigger. Who knows?
Well, maybe we both end up pulling the trigger. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And John, you know me, man. I always like to do my submission special. So yeah, if I can find a third leg that I like a submission prop on, I don't know what it is, man. With these little parlays that I do, they're such dart throws. It's like there's such random little things that, yeah, they don't hit very often, but when they do, they're like 60, 70 to 1. So fuck yeah, like, oh, give me a third submission leg. Let's see if we can find one over the course of the rest of the card.
For sure. I like it, man. I like it.
I love it.
I think it could happen here with Roberts for sure, though.
Right? I like that spot for Roberts. Absolutely. All right, man. We have got 235 live viewers hanging out with us. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. I'm with my boy, Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night, one of our absolute favorite S-tier guests. I almost said A tier. You're above that. You're S tier. We've got the S tier guest Lock of the Night here. This is Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you smash that like button for me, please. It helps us out with the algorithm. And you know what? If you hate my face, go ahead and pound the dislike button. I don't care. Subscribe here if you haven't already. And I do need to shout out my sponsors, Goat Capital _ on Twitter, Goat Capital Sports. They take care of absolutely everything else for you. If you're looking for picks, if you're looking for winners under basically every sport under the sun, they got you absolutely covered, and they have a money-back guarantee. It's a $25 weekly subscription. If you lose, if they have a down week on their picks, you get reimbursed your subscription price. So you want to make sure and take advantage of that at Goat Capital _ on Twitter. They got some good shit coming up. And DFS showing up in the house. What's up, buddy? How you doing this evening? Thanks for joining us. Boston Nick right after that. Everybody, the crew's all here. All right, man. Next fight we got coming up is going to be a fun one. William Knight taking on Fabio Cherant. William Knight 9-2. Cherant is 7-2. And I got to tell you guys, I've got a weakness for William Knight. I don't know what it is. I like the guy. He's a nerd like me. He goes by the Super Saiyan Nightmare. That is his fight name officially. And he's a comic book nerd just like myself. And I did ask him, I did slide into the DMs, his favorite DBZ characters are Vegeta and Kid Buu. I'm a Vegeta guy myself, so we're just, we're off to the races here, man. I love this guy. He's a human tank. I've compared him to Yoel Romero in the past with kind of the way he explodes and reloads. It's something that he is just solid muscle lock. Like, I have no idea how this man managed to pile on the layers of muscle that he has on his body, and he could knock out an elephant with a single explosion. And then, of course, he has to take a little bit of downtime, and then he does the damn thing again. I like William Knight stylistically against some fighters, but I do tend to think that he's maybe a little overpriced in a lot of his fights. We'll get into that. He's extremely heavy on his feet. He does have aggressive takedowns. This guy's ground and pound is probably the best thing that he does. If he gets on top of you, he is nasty on top. He's got a strong body lock. He likes to pin his opponents up against the fence. He's got decent 30 boxing, really good use of underhooks. And he's got that killer instinct. If he has you hurt, he will flurry. He will go for that finish. He will go for that knockout. And his power carries late. This is a guy that absolutely knows how to get that finish deep in the second, deep in the third. Like, you don't get by the first round and you're in the clear with William Knight. He can pick up the pace again when the fight gets late. Now, Fabio Cherant, he lost on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, made it to the UFC, and we just saw him get Von Flued by William Knight's would-be last opponent. And honestly, he seems like the UFC's new record patter. Like, this seems like the guy that now they're like, okay, like, we've given you a couple of chances. We're going to toss you to a couple of young contenders that need a little bit more seasoning and let them beat up on you before we give you your walking papers. Man, Fabio Cherant has one of the most padded records I have ever seen. His competition level on the regional scene before he got to the UFC was so low. It was so bad. And what I've noticed from him is he just gives up ground, Lock. All this guy does is move backwards. He's like Tyrone Woodley reincarnated. Like, he just moves himself back to the cage, and all he has is a left hand. Like, he doesn't have any striking to speak of except for a big left hand that he bites on the mouthpiece and swings as hard as possible. And then he's got a good submission game. Now, his subs are solid. I will give him that. The only problem is he doesn't wrestle. He waits for you to come in and take him down, and then he jumps the guillotine, has no takedown defense, plays with his back against the fence, and then looks for reversals and things like that. And the only time he gets offensive is when his opponents get tired. Like, you watch on the regional scene, he gives away the first round in almost every fight against some really bad fighters, and then once they gas out, he starts moving forward. William Knight's not going to gas out, folks. Like, this is a spot where I feel like William Knight is absolutely overpriced from a betting perspective, but I have to pick him to win here. Fabio Cherant is going to give William Knight the fight he wants. William Knight's going to be able to back him up, back him against the fence, get in on the hips, double leg him down, and then honestly, I think William Knight can pound this guy through the canvas floor. Now, if Will gets tired, if Will makes a mistake, maybe he gets caught in a submission or something like that. But, Lock, how do you choke a man with no neck? The guillotine is not going to be available this time. So, I don't know, man. I recognize that the line is probably too wide. I'm probably writing Fabio Cherant off a little bit too much, but I think this is William Knight all day. I'm not going to parlay him. This is definitely an alert, bed shitter type of situation. Don't go all in on William Knight, but man, I do think he wins.
I got to be honest, this is probably the fight that I'm least intrigued by on the entire card, and it has the biggest favorite on it, which I don't think is parlayable. Like you said, it's going to be very tough for Knight to go out there and actually cover this minus 215 if he doesn't get a quick first round stoppage. And the funny thing is, when you see these guys face off with one another, you're going to expect, this is probably going to be a quick barn burner and one of these guys is probably going to go to sleep. But the spot that I actually like the most is the over 1.5. One thing that we've been seeing from William Knight more often than not is, going out there, clinching his opponent up against the cage, trying to drag them to the ground and just stifle them, right? Like the Alexa Komor fight is a perfect example of that, where I believe it was his UFC debut, where he just goes out there and just, clinch fucks him. He tried to do the same thing against Da Un Jung, and Da Un Jung was just way too strong, way too powerful, and was able to kind of, just reverse it on him and just get his own takedowns. And we really saw William Knight, huffing and puffing that night as well. And obviously has to do what Da Un Jung was doing. But yeah, you're right. On the Fabio Cherant side, there's not much to like either. When you allow your opponent to kind of just control the fight and you just wait for them to gas out, then you start going, it's not a good look. William Knight could have a solid 7 minutes of success in this fight, 8 minutes of success. And then he's going to have to, lean on the last, 7 minutes of the fight to try to get a win, a knockout, or try to win the second and third round of the judges' scorecards. It's going to be tough for Fabio to get the W here. But with that said, the line is just way off. I don't know how you can go out there and bet William Knight at minus 215. He could have absolutely shit the bet here. Fabio Cherant, like you said, he probably is going to be upset with himself over the last couple performances. Not to mention, he missed weight. Yeah, I know he took the fight on short notice last time around against Alonzo Benefield, but missing weight is not a good look in the matchmaker's eyes at all, right? Like they expect you, once you accept the fight, even if it's on short notice, your main job is to make the weight on the scale the day before the fight. And if you don't, you have a black eye now in the perception of the matchmaker's eye. So you want to go out there and have a much better performance next time around. With Fabio Cherant, decent submission game, has some decent power in his hands, but you're right. He gives up the front foot a little bit too much. He allows his opponent to dictate the pace, and he's, he could try to allow, William Knight to just have some success in the first round by trying to clinch fuck him or grapple fuck him, and then maybe start going in the second and third rounds. But I don't know if I can trust him to do that. I still ended up predicting Cherant to win this fight. I think it's more so the odds than anything. Plus 185, I think in this spot is a little bit too crazy. I don't know what people think William Knight is, but I don't think he's minus 215 worth, even over against a guy like Fabio Cherant in this spot. And if he doesn't go out there and cover that minus 215, a lot of people are going to be pissed off. I mean, even if he wins the fight, if he wins a split decision here, it's not a good look at all. I do like Cherant, though. I do think that we'll see him kind of nullify that clinch heavy approach. I think we'll see him have success in the second and third rounds. We've seen him go 5 rounds in the past against Myron Dennis. I know it wasn't the same fight that we're expecting to see this weekend, but we've definitely seen him go 25 minutes before, and he's looked good in the past. It's that first round that scares me a little bit, but after that, I think we should see Cherant start to turn it on a little bit and possibly, just win the next 2 rounds. The only spot that I would look to take in this fight is the over 1.5. I think it's around minus 130, minus 140. I don't mind that. I think it's going to be a slow, drawn-out fight. I don't think there's going to be many finishing opportunities early here for either guy, and I think that we'll see this, creep into the second and third rounds. But yeah, something is just pushing me the Cherant way. Odds. William Knight just did not look good last time around, and I don't know how much of an advantage he's truly going to have here in the clinch, and for how long he's going to have that advantage in the clinch as well. So yeah, I got to go with the Cherant side for value, and then the over 1.5 is probably the spot that I feel most confident in.
Okay. All right. So a little bit of disagreement here on this one. I mean, we both have serious question marks, so no hardcore takes or anything like that, but I can totally see your argument here, man. I'd probably be looking at a late sprinkle, if anything, for me on William Knight. Like I said, he carries that power late, and we've seen Cherant fade, and he's got a history of missing weight, man. He, in some of his regional scene fights, I heard the announcers talking about how he missed weight coming in on some of those fights as well. So it's not just the UFC short notice. He's done it before. So I'll be very curious to see what Cherant looks like on the scales. And if he does end up slowing down like he usually does, William Knight could put this guy away in the second or the third round. But I do think that over 1.5 is a pretty solid look.
Yeah, that's probably the only action, if at all, I touch this fight. I know I told people a lot this week that since I'm going to be there, I want to put $50 on every single fight. So I'm kind of financially invested in every single one. The over 1.5 is probably what I'll be betting in this fight.
I like it, man. No, that's the way to do it, though. You got to have something riding on every fight, especially being there in person, man. That's going to be so damn fun. I'm jealous.
I want to have those physical tickets that I can just rip up if they end up losing right in front of me.
What is it about the physical tickets, man? Like there is something different about holding that little piece of paper that you can see the number on it. Like, you know exactly what the payout is. You don't have to, like pull up your internet history or like forget what to, like, you can see it all right there on the card. I get to go hand this in and they give me money back. Like, it's I don't know, it makes it so much better.
Honestly, I've only been to Vegas once, and I've done it twice when I was there because there's 3 events in 1 week. And I remember the Friday night I bet Frankie Edgar to beat Chad Mendes, cashed that, and then I put those winnings on Jose Aldo the next night, and he gets starched by fucking Conor McGregor in 13 seconds. So I lost all my winnings off of that. But again, that was like no tape study lock. This was 2015 when I was just throwing money around for the fuck of it.
Yep. Oh, the good old days. I remember when I used to be able to gamble without knowing anything about what I was doing, and just get mad when I lost because, of course, it wasn't my fault.
Of course, yeah. This guy's supposed to win, right? Based on no evidence at all that we've looked into.
Good times. Yes, all right. So what we're going to do at this point, Locke, you all know the drill. Whether you're picking a hat or a t-shirt, the code in the chat is t-shirt. Everybody get typing. I got my little scroll wheel here on the mouse. I'm going to cover my eyes, keep them nice and tight, and then point. I'm going to pick out a couple of winners, but I have to start scrolling after you all start typing so that it's not just the people at the top that have a chance to win. I'm going to scroll up and down, and randomly land on somebody. Give them a little head start here. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this, but this is the only way I could think of for like a fair, unbiased, like random winner. So
they absolutely destroyed the comment section. So you're going to find a nice winner there.
Chris Grieve. Chris Grieve. We got a winner. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter, Chris. And we'll do one more.
Let's go.
Justin T. Justin T gets a T-shirt.
I love it.
All right.
I love it.
And Blades just, shit, the chat's moving too fast.
What did you do, Clint?
Blades is in here having fun instead of typing T-shirt, so I was just had to point that out because it gave me a good little giggle.
That would have been great. That would have been great if you won it.
Oh my god, if I had randomly landed on it when he types titties instead of T-shirt, like
exactly, that'd be great.
All right, we got two winners. Moving right along, we're talking women's bantamweight. Bea Malecki taking on Josiane Nunes. Very, very interesting fight here, in my opinion. Bea Malecki getting the win over my girl in her last fight out. Extremely tall and long for this division. Swedish Muay Thai national champion, 4-0, undefeated Bea Malecki. She's got a strong teep front kick, big clinch knees, and man, she hits hard, but she is so slow. She looks like she's moving in molasses because of how big she is. Honestly, she's got like death by jabs written all over her. Like you just can't touch her because she pumps that lead arm out there. She's got a 9-inch reach advantage in this fight. Absolutely redonkulous. And she's taking on Nunes, who is very, very aggressive. She's making her UFC debut. She's a Muay Thai striker, and this chick has bombs in her hands, man. She comes in and she swings for the fences. The only problem is that she gets stuck on her back. She has very, very limited grappling from what we have seen so far. Now, I'm sure that's something she's working on. I'm sure it's something that she's trying to patch up and get better at, but we have no visual evidence that she's any better off the ground. And Bea at least knows how to hold herself positionally. You know, we've seen her get on top, be heavy from that position, and even just in little scrambles, like when you're kind of headed towards the ground, she gets on top of people in like dominant mount style positions. She's got those long ass legs. She just steps over people and sits on their chests. Man, honestly, Veronica Macedo, my girl, had a ton of success in that Bea Malecki fight, blitzing in, closing the distance, and landing right on her jaw. Like, that's what you got to do, is get inside that reach, make it ugly, make it dirty. And no disrespect to my girl Macedo, you know, that's another one I simp for, but I'm pretty sure Josiane Nunes hits harder than she does. And the way that she blitzes in and closes that distance, this is one of those spots where I think a lot of people are favoring Bea Malecki. And man, she's only got 4 fights. This is mixed martial arts. Like, there's a lot that could go wrong here. And with how hard Josiane Nunes hits, I would not be shocked if she got in there and landed some big bombs and swayed the judges, or maybe even clipped and hurt Bea Malecki. I can't bet this fight, Locke. I mean, you've got to take the girl who is undefeated and has a 9-inch reach advantage and probably keeps her chin so high up the other girl can't touch it because of the size advantage. But I can see so many gaps that this other newcomer, Nunes, might be able to take advantage of. So this is another fight that, honestly, it's fireball and popcorn, man. I have no interest in betting this fight whatsoever, except maybe a sprinkle on the violence bet, except that the bookmakers are already wise to that too. Total set at 2.5, and the opening line is -125. So like, they know there's going to probably be violence in this fight. So I don't know if it's even really worth it to take that stab on the violence in this spot, because this could turn into another fight where Malecki just tries to stay on the outside and uses that reach. It's a pretty rough one, but honestly, it should be entertaining, and I'm kind of going to be cheering for Josiane Nunes to get a knockout.
Jesus. I see where you're coming from. And before I start my breakdown, something you can address on the backside of my breakdown is actually Chris Greaves says he doesn't have Twitter. So there's going to have to be another way that you can reach out to him to give him his shirt or whatever. But in terms of this fight specifically, I am with those people of the belief that Bea Malecki should go out there and kind of style on Josiane Nunes, right? I think that she should be able to go out there and land some good strikes from the outside and have a ton of success in the clinch. I think that her knees are going to be very devastating in this spot, especially over a fighter that she has a 7-inch height advantage over and a 7-inch reach advantage over in this spot. I remember when Josiane Nunes was scheduled to fight Zara Farn, and Farn obviously missed weight by a shit ton, and that fight ended up getting canceled. I was actually, close to putting a bet on Zara in that fight as a slight underdog, as I believe that she had the striking advantage and obviously the physical advantages to go out there and implement that and keep Josiane Nunes on the end of her jab and on the end of her punches. Now we're getting a better fighter in Bea Malecki, world champion Muay Thai, fighter, somebody that came over from that Muay Thai world, came over to MMA, and she hasn't been that active in terms of her MMA career. I believe she only has 4 total fights, 5 if you want to include that Leah Letson fight from the Ultimate Fighter. And yeah, it was a little bit discouraging to see Letson land those takedowns and have that success that she did have against Bea Malecki, but from all indications from watching Nunes's fights, she wants to go out there and just take your head off, right? She doesn't really look to engage in the grappling unless her opponent kind of forces them to do so. Bea Malecki, though, I think she is making improvements in the grappling, as we've seen some, rear naked chokes from her in the past, and she does look to, pass guard and try to take the back at times of her opponents. So I don't think she'll be a fish out of water on the ground if this fight does get taken to the ground. Josiane Nunes almost takes the Homer Simpson approach, right? Where she's pretty much just getting a little bit touched up and lit up early in her fights. And then once her opponents start to gas, then she starts to put it on and eventually knock them out. She's not going to have that advantage here against Bea Malecki. Malecki seems to have solid cardio for 15 minutes, but I don't even think she's going to need 15 minutes. I think she's going to be able to get Josiane Nunes out of there early in this fight, probably midway through the second round at latest. I think she's going to have a significant advantage on the feet, more technical abilities in the striking realm, and hopefully she shows a little bit better striking defense than she did against Veronica Macedo. The difference, I believe, though, between the Macedo and Nunes fight is that Macedo was light on her feet, right? She's jumping around, she's hopping around, she's blitzing forward, landing those attacks. Josiane Nunes seems to be a little bit more flat-footed, right? I think she, there are moments where she does kind of blitz forward and throw those similar strikes, but she doesn't move around as much as Veronica Macedo, which I think led to the amount of success that Macedo actually had in that fight against Malecki. Here with Malecki, though, I think that she will be able to maintain that range, nullify the amount of damage that's coming back from the Nunes side. And I really don't even think that Nunes is that good, to be honest, right? She's 7-1. Only loss was to Tyler Santos, who's obviously now in the UFC, but it looks like she changed training camps after that Tyler Santos loss. She went over to that Astra fight team with Tyler Santos, and that team is kind of known for being the king can crushers over there, right? They crush all these cans, they build themselves up a great record, and then they come to the UFC, and more often than not, they end up getting exposed. Let's just look
Tyler Santos.
Yeah, well, Tyler Santos is great. Don't get me wrong; she might be the exception there, But I do think that we've seen the flaws in Nunes's game, even on the regional scene, against women that don't even deserve to be in the UFC. I think Malecki, although still young in her MMA career, has the striking chops to go out there, keep Josiane Nunes on the end of her punches, or even just follow up with some Muay Thai clinch, some knees, and really put it on Nunes and probably get her out of there in the first or second round. I did see somebody say in the comment section, the under 2.5. I think that's a solid spot. Like you said, minus 120, minus 125. I know it's a little chalk. It's, just over even money, but still, I think both women have finishing capabilities, but I think it's going to be Malecki that ends up getting that finish. So yeah, I like Malecki a lot in the spot, honestly. I don't think that she's going to let Nunes easily close that distance and get her shots off. And I think we'll see her kind of tee off on her and eventually get her out of there by the second round.
Okay. All right. I feel you. I think we're kind of siding along the same lines. You're just far more confident on this one than I am, man. This is low-level women's MMA to a T, except there is no armbar from guard on this one.
No, I don't think so. I'd be surprised if Nunes pulls off a submission from her back, if anything.
I don't know if either of these girls even know submissions, man. Like if there's going to be any type of a fluke finish, it's going to be like a spinning elbow or some shit. There will be no armbar. This is not the third leg of my submission special.
Watch fucking Malecki pull off an omoplata or something.
Oh my god. Oh, that would be amazing. She switches from ground and pound to like a rear naked choke for the first time in her career.
I heard you, Clint. This is for you.
I would eat that. If Bea Malecki comes in my chat and is like, you said I couldn't submit. All right, fine. I'll buy a month of your OnlyFans. Get out of here.
Yeah, I just found out this week she has an OnlyFans. I was surprised to hear that, but hey, fucking make use of your platform, girl.
Dude, if you've seen anything she posts on Instagram, I mean, she's kinky as fuck. There's people out there that are into that shit. So, like, go for it, girl. Make your money. Like, have at it.
I'm sure she's making decent money, so all praise to you, girl.
I'm sure. I've pitched the idea a couple of times. I'm going to start writing my fight picks on my feet. I'm going to start an OnlyFans. Everyone's got Patreons and shit. I'm going to start an OnlyFans.
Just you in a thong dropping picks.
It's just me in way revealing clothes, and my picks will be in marker on my feet.
You need a diehard Speedo, like what was that name? Fuck, Dennis Hallman. What was that guy's name? That Brian.
The one that got kicked out of the UFC for wearing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Dana White was so mad at that. That was amazing. Oh, good reference, Lock. Good one.
I was at that fight. I could see everything in his Speedos.
We could all see everything. Oh, boy. Yeah, irregardless. Okay. Let's get this show back on track. Let's get this.
Derailed it a little bit.
All right. Man, next fight coming up here. Bantamweight matchup. Brian Boom Kelleher taking on Domingo Pilarte. And as a lot of you know, Boom is a friend of the show. I reached out to him. I was hoping we could get him on here just for a quick little, pop his head in and give his prediction type of thing tonight. Unfortunately, he is taking this fight camp very, very seriously, and he turned me down. He said he didn't have time to come in, which I understand, Boom. I totally get it. We don't want to take away from your performance or anything, so we're just going to wish him luck and move on from there. Kelleher is 22-12. Pilarte is 8-2. And let's be real, man. Brian is an absolute entertainer. This guy is a finisher. He goes out there and he looks for the kill every single time he's in there. He's dropping back down to bantamweight, which I really think is good for him. He's strong, he's thick, but he was just too small up a weight class. Those guys were able to just out-physical him. Like Ricky Simone is just a bigger, larger version of Brian Kelleher. Like he had no hope in that fight because everything Brian Kelleher does, Simone does well and is bigger. Like it just didn't really pan out for him. So I think he's better off down here at bantamweight. I'm looking forward to see him back in his weight class where he's not going to get bullied around by guys. And he's an absolute dog. Like if you put your money on Brian Kelleher, you know he is never going to stop fighting for that ticket. He's got to be unconscious. Otherwise, he's going for the kill all the way up until the last second of the fight. He's got some power in his hands. He's a strong wrestler. He's got a skill set that we can look forward to backing at times. Now, Domingo Pilarte, this guy is really light on his feet. He's tall. He's long. He's going to have a significant height and reach advantage here in this fight. And he is coming off of getting absolutely bombed on. Very similarly to Roosevelt Roberts that we talked about earlier, where his record shows different from what is life. Man, Domingo Pilarte has a third loss on that record, and it's by freaking knockout. Because if you all remember watching the Journey Newsom fight, he put this man down like a sack of potatoes. It was a scary, scary knockout. Now, not to take anything away from him, let's actually talk about what he's good at. He's got a very sneaky high kick. He's got a long, rangy kicking game. He likes to play the outside, stay at range. And honestly, I like what I see from Domingo Pilarte's striking. He's a young fighter. He can absolutely improve and still put some stuff together, but he really seems to struggle with the wrestling. He's a guy that has solid jiu-jitsu. He's aggressive off of his back. He attacks submissions, but he really struggles with the body lock. We saw him get body locked and taken down, just dragged to the mat over and over and over again. And he's another guy that's willing to play off of his back. I really feel like, man, this is a solid matchup for my boy Brian Kelleher. I think if he goes to the wrestling, he's got a very clear advantageous path to victory in this spot where he can just rinse and repeat Domingo Pilarte to the floor. And Brian Kelleher is no man that you can submit easily. He's got a nasty submission game himself. He's got that solid guillotine, and we have seen Domingo Pilarte try to reverse the script and change it up. Once he defends a takedown, he goes for the takedown himself. I've seen him stick his neck out there. I absolutely think that Brian Kelleher can school on this guy on the floor. And then on the feet, even though I feel like Domingo Pilarte is the more slick striker, I think he's probably got a little bit of an advantage there. I think the explosiveness, the ability to close the range, stay in the pocket, I think Brian Kelleher can still cause him some problems. The problem is I don't like the line. We got minus 170 on Brian Kelleher here, and man, that just feels chalky to me. Like I'm not sure. It's popped up to minus 175 in a lot of spots. So he opened up minus 140, minus 145, and now he's been bet all the way up to minus 170, minus 175. This might be the spot where I close out my submission special, man, and take Brian Kelleher by submission. But I don't think I'm going to lay that chalk on him. I'm going to pick my guy Boom to win, but I don't know if I can say he's a good bet here. How do you see this one?
I'm definitely one of those guys that doesn't mind paying chalk if I definitely see a path to victory for that specific fighter, and I think they have enough of an edge to actually cover that chalky line. And I think that this is one of those spots where Brian Kelleher actually covers that chalky line. I think he looks better than the minus 175 actually even indicates. But I think my breakdown slightly varies from yours in a couple of spots here. I think Pilarte's wrestling is not that bad. I think it has bailed him out of bad spots. But it doesn't seem like he does much on the ground when he's actually on top. It seems like he struggles to pass guard at times of his opponents. And it seems like he really struggles to actually get damage going from on top. It just seems like he holds his opponents in those spots. Then you see the situations like his Felipe Clarish fight where he has the back for the entirety of the third round, but just can't find any type of success. Can't even get close to a choke or anything like that. In terms of his striking, I think he's kind of limited there, right? Like it's really just that left down the middle. He is pretty quick with it as well. And obviously that high kick, which is, it seems like those are his only two weapons in the striking realm. Whereas, we know Brian Kelleher is much more seasoned in the striking, has good boxing, good durability. So I'm sure he'll be able to take a shot here. And then when he does close the distance, we know all about his power. There's so many times where you see Pilarte, getting unloaded on against the cage and he just shells up and he doesn't really know what to do. The Adrian Yanez fight, he has a win over him, but man, that was a close fight. That was one where he was struggling to get the takedown. And when he did, he didn't really even do much from on top. There's one instance at the ending of that fight with like 50 seconds left where Adrian Yanez is absolutely unloading on him. And you see the referee going in to stop the fight, but Pilarte shoots a takedown immediately. So you see the referee kind of whiff in terms of touching the fighters, and Pilarte actually lands a takedown, and he's able to grind the rest of those 40 seconds out. But I think he's going to have much more difficulty here with Brian Kelleher. It wasn't too long ago where I was kind of writing off Kelleher, honestly. I'm going to be completely honest here. Like I picked Hunter Azure against him, as I truly believe that Azure was going to be able to secure takedowns and kind of grind him out similar to how Ricky Simon was able to last time around. But I underestimated his ability to have success in the striking realm, keep Hunter Azure on the outside. And even if Azure was able to get him down, he was able to get back to his feet relatively quickly. We've seen him have success in terms of getting back to his feet, especially against Ricky Simon, who I believe is a much better grappler than what Mr. Domingo Pichel is going to bring into the table. And they are similar styles in terms of Pilarte, Cody Stamann, and Ricky Simon. Grapple heavy fighters, but the difference between Stamann and Ricky Simon and Domingo Pilarte is those first two guys are much more comfortable in the striking realm. They can throw hands, they can throw kicks, and they're confident in throwing it rather than Pilarte, who just seems to throw it out to kind of gauge distance and eventually look for a takedown. I think he's going to struggle to get the takedown here. I actually was on Kelleher's Instagram live earlier today, and I just threw out a question. I'm like, how do you rate Domingo Pilarte's wrestling compared to his last two opponents, right? And he goes, I don't think he's going to have that much offensive success against me, considering he's going to be so much taller than me. It's going to be a lot harder for him to get in on my hips here.
It's going to be hard to get to the hips.
Yeah, and he's going to struggle to, really close the distance and get that type of grapple-heavy game plan going. So if you're telling me that he's going to go out there and try to strike with Brian Kelleher for 15 minutes, I think he's going to eat some canvas this weekend. I think that Kelleher will be able to land one of those boom bombs, and I think that he's going to be able to knock him out here, man. Pilarte is a little bit too wild on the feet, very limited in the striking as well. Don't get me wrong, he has some decent power, as we saw, where I believe he broke Journey Newson's jaw with that one clean head kick that he landed, and then eventually got too overzealous and got knocked out. He can get overzealous here against Brian Kelleher because he's going to get knocked out. But if he's going to be forced to just strike with Kelleher, I don't see him having that much success against Kelleher because Kelleher has way more options on the feet. Great leg kicks, good boxing, and should be able to close the distance and land some big power. So yeah, I feel quite confident about Kelleher in this spot as well. I do like him in this spot. I think he'll, again, have the better of the boxing, and I think he'll eventually knock him out. I'm going to call a second round knockout here for Boom. And yeah, I think he's going to be one of those few guys that actually lives up to his somewhat chalky price on this card this weekend. So don't be surprised if you see Brian Kelleher as my lock of the night play for this weekend.
Woo! Oh, I love hearing that. All right. So as you know, Locke, we've got to do a very specific thing as bettors, and it's hard sometimes as an MMA fan. We got to pull the heart out, let it thump a couple times, and then set it on the desk before you make your bet. And I'm extremely biased in this fight. I love Brian Kelleher. He's already agreed to come back on the show after he knocks this dude out on Saturday. So like we hang out, you know what I mean? So I'm in tight with Brian Kelleher, and I can't let that get in the way of my picking. And so that's where I thought maybe I feel like the line was a little bit too wide, and I couldn't quite bring myself to say, like, I'm going to hammer it, like I'm going to pick him to win. I've got to be very, very careful because of that personal attachment. So I'm glad to hear you have that level of confidence. That makes me feel better that it wasn't just misplaced affection that I feel like he's going to come through here in this spot. Brian Kelleher inside the distance, plus 125. That's a spot that I may take a look at, because I think you've got it right. I mean, we all know they call him Boom for a reason. He's got those heavy hands, and he's got that nasty submission game. So he can finish either way. This is one of those spots where if you take him by knockout, he probably chokes the guy out. If you take him by sub, he's going to end up TKOing him. Like, it's one of those spots. So I might take that plus 125 on the inside the distance. But again, I'm going to tread very lightly. I don't know if I'm going to officially bet anything on Brian Kelleher because of that attachment. But I do pick him to win, and I think there's a lot of ways that he can finish.
I'm glad that you take responsibility of that and actually recognize that, right? Like, you do have a bias towards him just because you guys are friends and he's done the show in the past, and it's good that you're kind of laying it out there. But once you actually look at this fight, and I'm sure you have already have, and you believe that he should win this fight, you'll see that he should probably cover that minus 175 without too much issue. And last thing I'll say, I am hoping and praying that I could eventually get to Brian Kelleher and be like, hey, I got a victory doobie to go on with you after this fight. If you end up getting that knockout, if you want to go celebrate, your boy Lock's going to have it lit up after the fights at the Apex. So I'm going to be sliding in his DMs and be like, hey, I got you. Let's celebrate.
He's the kind of guy that would probably be up for something like that. I'll put in a good word for you. I'll let him know you're one of the good ones.
Let him know I'm not just this rabid stalker fan or anything like that. I just want to have a good time. That's it.
Absolutely. I'll put a word in. Got to shout out our guy Tajik Bey. The GOAT says something's not right with the odds on this fight. Avoid, signed the GOAT. First off, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, Tajik, and thank you very much for the donation. As you guys all know, Pub Sports Radio does a whole lot of content, and these donations go straight to Pub to help keep the lights on, pay for all the personalities, all the free content that we're giving you constantly. So we really appreciate these types of donations. But hey, the GOAT is the GOAT for a reason, and he has spoken. So if you want an inside track, Tajik says there's something off about this one, and avoid that line.
I love Tajik, man. That guy is just
who doesn't
going to be this myth within like the MMA betting community, and then he just slowly shows his face every now and then, dropping donations left and right, dropping his bet slips left and right. I love this guy, man. I hope he eventually does his own show.
He sneaks around in the shadows, and then he just slides in and drops a bomb, and he's just become this legend within the group. I love it.
Tajik is the best. Tajik is the fucking best.
We love this. We love you, Tajik. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. All right, man. Next fight up, we've got Austin Lingo taking on Luis Saldana. Lingo 8-1, Saldana 15-6. We've got Austin Lingo, who made his UFC debut against Youssef Zalal. I mean, right out the gate, you got to give the guy a little bit of credit there, because that is a tough order, man. That is a tall order for your UFC debut. He's very light on his feet. He's got fast, heavy hands, and man, he is aggressive with his jab. He's got a very, very stiff jab. He's got a nice lead left hook that he uses, a heavy right cross. I really like this guy's striking, and he can put people away when he connects. He's strong in the clinch. He likes to use elbows on the breaks. And he got a big, big bounce back win over Kilburn in his last fight. Now, Kilburn is no longer with the UFC. I think he just signed with the PFL. So he's not a guy that we're entirely sure is UFC caliber. A good win for Lingo to get back on the horse, get his UFC career back on the right path. But not entirely sure how much we can really take from that. Luis Saldana on the flip side of this thing, another guy that's extremely light on his feet, a very wide range of striking attacks, lots of kicks. He switches stances. He strikes extremely well moving backwards, Lock. That's something I noticed, is that this guy can be full on backpedal and still keep up with the offense that's coming his direction. He plays the Matador extremely well, and he's got another lightning quick jab. So these guys are both going to be trying to get to work on that jab, and it's going to come down to the dominance. Whoever's going to be taller, whoever's going to be longer. And it just so happens that Luis Saldana has a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot. He does throw spinning attacks from time to time. He's got that finishing capability, but he does struggle from time to time with pressure takedowns and grappling. Now, in his last fight, he fought Jordan Griffin. And I had a ticket on Jordan Griffin. I am of the opinion that Jordan Griffin won that fight the last time around. So a bad bounce. Judges gave it to Saldana. I can see the argument for the 2 rounds, but personally, I thought Griffin won that fight. And I feel like Griffin got a bad rap. I think he got cut from the UFC as well. And I think he's been way too entertaining, and he's been robbed a couple times, and he's fought too closely. He's a guy you give another shake. I hope we see Jordan Griffin back in the UFC sooner than later because, man, I feel like he deserves it. But the big thing for me here, Locke, anybody that's been following me, tuning into these live shows for some time, knows that as soon as I say these words, we got a bet. Luis Saldana moved to fight ready, folks. He moved out to my favorite gym in the history of UFC gyms. All right. He's out here in Arizona. He's training with Henry freaking Cejudo. And I have just drooled over the physical transformations that Fight Ready puts these people through every single time. They do a lot of those before and after, like fight camp photos. And there is nothing like a Fight Ready fight camp, man. Like, I don't know what it is, but when you see people go through fight camp at other places, the transformations at Fight Ready are just levels above. I don't know what the secret is, but they have the secret sauce at Fight Ready. I'm hoping it's not actually the sauce, but they do have the secret ingredient over there. Luis Saldana is a guy that I think has absolutely all the raw materials to be a talent here in the UFC, and it just needs to be harnessed, and Fight Ready is the kind of place that will harness that talent. So I went ahead and I took a shot here on Luis Saldana. I've got another hammer laid down on this kid. I think I got 2.7 units on him to win 2. I'm pretty sure I got minus 135 on him. Right now, Luis Saldana is minus 135, so you can still get that line out there. Plus 110, plus 105 in certain spots. The comeback on Austin Lingo. I need to shout out my guy, Rockstar Z, real quick. So he did an early in-depth breakdown on this fight. And I knew this was one I was going to be very, very interested in, except I thought that I was going to be on the Austin Lingo side. Now, without having – anytime I saw a tweet, anytime I saw it pop up on my YouTube recommended or anything like that, I scrolled by it as quick as I could because I was like, I don't want to see what Z is on here. And for some reason, I thought I saw him say that Austin Lingo was the side. And I was like, oh, man, like I try not to be pre-biased going into my tape study, and knowing a guy who has a similar style to me and a handicapping style that I respect, whenever I see someone like that on a fighter that I like, it automatically kind of locks me in and biases me. So I was like, shit, like I'm kind of just leaning already to the dog money on Austin Lingo, and I think Z picked Austin Lingo, and then I go watch the tape. And I'm like, fuck no, I'm on Luis Saldana here. Like, I got to bet Luis Saldana here. And then I go look at the line, and money's coming on Lingo. And then I was like, okay, let me just pump the brakes here. I'm going to go watch my boy Z's video. So I go to Z's MMA on YouTube. I watch his breakdown, and I had it backwards. Z was also on Luis Saldana. So I was like, perfect. Like, we line up. We absolutely line up, and we're standing against the market move here. Guys, I don't know. I think there's a lot of recency bias again in this spot. I think the knockout that we saw from Austin Lingo in his last fight is really influencing how good people think this kid is. And I think that a lot of us, myself included, not liking the way that the Luis Saldana fight went last time. I think we're all kind of underestimating what this kid is capable of. It's paper, rock, scissors in MMA. This is a different matchup. Austin Lingo is not Jordan Griffin. He's not going to sell out for the takedown time and time and time again and force these grappling situations. I don't think he has the gas tank to keep up with something like that. This is going to be a striking match. And I think that Luis Saldana is the better striker of the two. And even if he's gonna deal with some grappling, he's at freaking Fight Ready, man. He's training with some of the best wrestling coaches in the game right now. He's gonna be prepared for a well-rounded mixed martial arts fight. I think we see Luis Saldana 2.0, and I'm fine to stand in front of this market move. I think the people betting on Austin Lingo are simply wrong. I think that this line opened up more correctly with Luis Saldana as like a minus 150 favorite. And I do think come fight time, it's going to start heading the other way. So I'm taking advantage of it while it's low right now. And I'm fine with people telling me I'm wrong here, Locke. If you tell me I'm wrong, I'm not okay with that. So go ahead, break it down, man. How do you see this fight lining up? What side are you on?
Dude, I think you really covered all the main points on this fight. I'm actually with
Sorry,
you.
I got
really like
excited.
Saldana. Sometimes I do that. The thing is here, I do like Saldana as well. I'm kind of surprised at the line movement as much as it's moving here. But the one thing that does concern me a little bit about Lingo, which is why ultimately Saldana won't be my lock of the night play. I was very close to pulling the trigger on him until I found these other spots I was more confident in that we've already spoken about. But that power of Lingo is scary. Like, it is a little bit scary. The guy has some crazy power. I think 4 out of his 6 wins before coming to the UFC were all within 35 seconds. Like, the guy touches you on the chin and you go to sleep. Obviously, it hasn't worked out for him in the UFC yet, but he was close to finishing Jacob Kilburn a couple times. And I thought I was going to cash my under 2.5 ticket in that fight, but Jacob Kilburn just keeps coming back from the dead, and he was just able to, stick it out and make that full 50 minutes and make it to the judges' scorecards. But Lingo does definitely have some solid power. Obviously, trains out of Fortis MMA. I think the way you feel about Fight Ready, I feel about Fortis, but I don't think that it's going to have much of an effect in this fight in terms of, save Sayuda and the type of the game plan that he's going to draw for Austin Lingo here. But I think if he just continuously marches forward and tries to put that pressure on Saldana, he's going to get lit up. But there could also be that opportunity where Lingo actually lands a big bomb and, sways the judges or gets a knockout or something like that. It's a little bit of a concern for me here. But like, technically speaking, I think that Saldana is a better fighter, right? He, like you said, even off the back foot, he works very well. His jab stays consistent. His front kicks, his spinning back kick that he has to kind of maintain distance, that's a great look as well. I do think he lights up Austin Lingo here and, beats him over 15 minutes. I don't think he'll get a stoppage in this fight, but I do think that he'll, land more. I think the judges will kind of score his damage a little bit more than Lingo kind of just throwing at air. But it's when Lingo lands that I'm a little bit concerned. I have heard the approach that Lingo's going to go out there and grapple fuck Luis Saldana. I just don't think that he's going to be able to replicate what Jordan Griffin was able to do. I don't know if people are underestimating what Jordan Griffin brings to the table when it comes to grappling, but I think he's one of the better grapplers, right? I think he's pretty good. He's good in scrambles. He has good takedowns. He has good entries. And yeah, I think he got screwed as well in terms of getting cut after losing that fight against Saldana. I had money on Griffin in that spot, and I thought he won as well. But again, a little bit of a bias on that spot. Regardless, I think Saldana wins this fight. He was close to, like I said, he was close to being my lock of the night play until I started looking at other spots. And I'm kind of surprised at the amount of money coming in on Lingo in this spot. I think if you're going to look to bet Lingo in this spot, just take the KO prop. You know what I mean? I'd be some, or just the inside the distance. There's a possibility of the club and sub situation for Lingo, as he's definitely done that in the past. But I'd be surprised if he wins a decision in this spot. Yeah, he's going to win a decision against a guy like Jacob Kilburn, but he's going to be able to win a decision against a guy like Luis Saldana, who's going to be throwing volume, going to be throwing heat, and going to be landing as often as he does. I just don't see it happening. So the pick is Saldana. I like Saldana. Even at, what is that now? Minus 125. Is that much how much the line has come down?
I do see a rogue minus 125 out there. Yeah. Now it's minus 135 across the board, but it looks like 5 Dimes has minus 127 and DraftKings does have minus 125.
Yeah. So I'm surprised it's closing that much. I see the angle people have with Lingo in terms of, the pressure and power that he has, but I do think that we'll see Saldana, deal with it properly, stick the jab out there, stick the kick out there, kind of maintain that distance, roll with the shots, nullify the grappling that Austin Lingo might try to implement here. And I think we'll see Saldana cruise to a decision victory. The line is great too. Minus 125. I think that's a solid spot. So yeah, I do like Saldana here. Will I bet him? I'm not 100% sure, but I do think he wins this fight.
Well, I mean, will you bet him? Yes, you're going to have $50 at least invested on every fight. So
no, for sure. Well, on my degenerate fight day plays, my physical tickets, I'll probably have $50 on Saldana on the spot.
There you go. All right, man. I'm glad to see that we line up on that. And yeah, I'm really surprised to see the money just keep on flowing in. I've already got, 2.5 units invested on this spot. I don't tend to go much deeper than that unless I'm extremely confident on a play. But damn, dude, if this line flips, if they give me plus money on Luis Saldana, I might have to. You know what I mean? Like, it might be one of those spots where I just feel the market is wrong and be willing to put my money where my mouth is. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if you have that much confidence, you'll be salivating at the mouth for plus money here.
See, and that's the problem is I don't know if I have that much confidence, but I do feel like the line is that wrong. You know what I mean? Like, from a sports betting angle, I feel like the edge is just getting bigger the wider this line gets, or I guess the shorter this line gets. Shout out.
I think another angle that you could potentially take is the under 2.5 if you want to cover a Lingo knockout and the possibility of a Saldana knockout. Although I do believe that Saldana wins this fight via decision.
That's not bad at all. I'm kind of leaning the same way, man. I think decision is probably the most likely outcome here, though. Einstein MMA, shout out. Thank you very much for the donation, my friend. I appreciate it. And a great call. If Lingo wins, it's going to be by KO. He's one of these guys that can turn the course of a fight with that power that he has at any point in time, and getting 4-1 on that kind of a finish, it's not a bad call. If that's the side that you like, I absolutely can see it, because I don't know if he's going to be able to... I don't know if he's going to be able to outclass Saldana for 15 minutes, just straight up. Like, if he wins, I think it's probably because he lands the bigger, harder shots. Maybe he knocks him down without finishing him. Like, it's kind of a stretch to feel like Austin Lingo is going to pull off that kind of a win without finishing. If he hurts him and drops him, I think he probably swarms and gets it done. So, yeah, I don't know, man. You got to take him by the knockout prop, I think, if you're going to bet that side.
I like it. Again, the only way I see him winning a decision is like repeatedly dropping Saldana and that forward pressure. But I think that Saldana will just keep him on the end of the jab, landing more significant strikes, and hopefully taking home that decision victory.
Yeah. And shout out here to Shaham Sharma in the chat. Clint, you are such a great gambler, bro. No cap. I know you're making fun of me, and you've done it a couple times throughout the chat, and it's okay, because you know what? I don't care. That's the best part. I don't give a fuck.
They're coming to watch us. This is great.
I've never claimed to be a good gambler. If anybody's new to the show, I am not a professional. I'm a dad bod who loves MMA. I'm a degenerate gambler, and I'm sharing all my information with you. I'm going to tell you what I'm betting on, and there's a ton of other sharper mixed martial arts bettors out there that you have to pay for their information for. Go give him a follow. Lock being one of them. He's a much better gambler than I am, and I have no problem admitting that. So if you're tuning in for the free info and for a fun show, that's all we're doing.
It's definitely been an interesting year for betting, but yeah, there's definitely some very solid dudes out there that we got to give some shout outs to. But I know you've had some of them on your channel. Lucrative MMA, fucking a genius right now with this betting record this year.
Hey, I'm going to keep bringing them on, man. That's the goal. I always like to try and tie myself to people that are much better at this than me and that are much smarter than me. And that's kind of the thing. I'll play the host. I'll be the entertainer. I'll provide the degeneracy, and then bring in people who actually know what they're talking about. And if you want their information, have at it.
I love it.
I'm working on it, though. I do want to be a good gambler someday, so I'm trying to get better.
You're putting yourself on a platform that has like the most eyes on it, and that's a lot of fucking pressure that you're putting on yourself. But it's good that you're thriving within it, man. It's definitely good for that.
Positive for the year so far, man. Trying to hang in there. Gotta end this year positive, because I dropped the ball last year at the very end of the year.
I started the year pretty shitty. Like the first 3 months was horrible for me, and I'm still flying getting back to the service here. But luckily things are in the positive trend.
We're both headed the right direction. Well, never mind. I'm headed the wrong direction at the moment. You're headed the right direction. All right.
We can turn her away this weekend.
That's right. We're going to get back on track here. So, unfortunately, Ryan Grant, Toga's increased the line value by 100%, and science supports it. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Ryan, if I didn't already have you down for a T-shirt, you would have just won a T-shirt. So
he was the one I picked.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He's in already. All right. So unfortunately, I have sad news. This fight is not happening. Manny Martinez has been pulled from the card. My guy Trevin Jones can't get a fight to save his life, and I'm pissed about it, because I just want to see the man compete. He's so damn good. I cannot stand it. Hopefully we get some sort of a late replacement just so we can watch him in there. But let's be realistic. If Trevin Jones gets another short notice replacement, he's going to beat that ass and be a minus 500 and get them out of there in the first round or some shit. So, yeah.
I was not the under 2.5 in that fight, to be honest. I thought that was a good violence bet. But again, they didn't even drop the totals before the fight got canceled. So I don't fucking know.
That was violence all day. That was going to be a 1-round fight. Abso-freaking-lutely. We got a donation from NPC number 621, $2 dodo. Is gambling your major income? No, it is not. I have a full-time day job, and I do this as a side hustle. I do hope one day, and here, this is the thing. A lot of people confuse this. There's a lot of people out there striving to be full-time gamblers. I am 98% never going to be a full-time gambler. I will not count out myself entirely. I'm going to give myself a 2% chance of someday achieving that goal. But what I do want to do is be a full-time content creator. Hopefully one of these days I do well enough between gambling and the podcast to be able to quit my day job and have MMA coverage and then maybe spread out into like NHL stuff like that and have that be my full-time gig. That's what I would like. So I want to be a successful bettor, but realistically, I'm probably not going to be the guy out there betting $10,000 a fight and earning my daily bread on it. All right.
Too much stress.
Oh my God, man. Especially with a family. Can you imagine that? I really don't know how people do that.
I know I can't rely strictly just on gambling winners for that shit.
Got to have the other source of income, man. Got to have it.
Of
All right. Here we go. We have reached the main card. We've got 313 live viewers. Thank you all so much for hanging with us tonight. Don't you worry. We have some additional merch to give out. We will do so shortly. But first, I want to talk about this fight because it's my main event of the evening. Alexandre Pantoja taking on Brandon Raw Dog Royval. This is the spot, folks. Like I am foaming at the mouth for this fight. The MMA gods can pull as many fights off this card as they want to. Do not take Brandon Royval versus Alexandre Pantoja from me. This is essentially a number one contenders fight, man. Alexandre Pantoja is 23-5. Royval is 12-5, and Pantoja is a guy who is championship level well-rounded. He is right there. He has given guys like Davis and Figueiredo all they can handle. Like, this guy is incredibly skilled, high-level BJJ, slick striking, knockout power, heavy hands. This guy can brawl if you want to. He can grind if he needs to. He absolutely can go anywhere the fight takes place. He controls the center of the cage. He stalks his opponents. He changes it up with level changes, puts people on their back foot. Like, there's not a lot that you can poke a hole in Alexandre Pantoja's game. He's extremely solid everywhere. That being said, I'm betting against him. Brandon Royval is my call for the sleeper of this division. At flyweight, he's a man that I think is just such raw chaos that he will be able to do very similarly to my guy, Brendan Moreno. Those were my two boys. Raw Dog and Moreno are the guys that I'm absolutely in love with at this division. Oh, and Askar Askarov too, by the way. I have too many sleepers. There's too many fighters I like in this damn division. I actually had a bet on Brandon Royval. Now, a lot of you guys remember his fight with Brandon Moreno, and everyone's going to say that it was a foregone conclusion. Brandon Moreno was winning that fight, but that's the way Royval fights, and you cannot keep up with the controlled chaos that he causes. He was a big underdog in that spot, and I really wish that we had gotten to see a round two, because Royval's arm popped out of its socket. Talk about a freak accident. Like, that just doesn't happen very often, and the ref stopped it with 1 second on the clock. So talk about variance, everybody. Like, I couldn't get a stoppage when OAM was in full mount pounding on a guy this past weekend, but with 1 second on the clock, they stop it when my guy Royval wasn't even hurt from his opponent's offense. He went back to the corner, they popped his arm back in place, he could have kept fighting. Man, if they had just gotten him through that round without waving it off, they crack his arm back into place and he comes out round two and we still got a shot. So that's frustrating. Anyway, what this guy is criminally underrated. He's big for the weight class. He's got extremely high-level BJJ. He forces scrambles and he dominates in those scrambles. He thrives in that chaos that he causes, and he's high volume. You're not going to out-volume Brandon Royval. He actually forced Brendan Moreno to grapple in that fight. If you go back and you rewatch it, he rocked Brendan Moreno, and that's why Moreno changed levels and went in for a takedown. And as we know, Moreno is not an easy guy to hurt, not an easy guy to clip on the feet, and Royval, in fact, did that in the short round that he was in there against him. He's also just the perfect kind of underdog, man. This guy will fight for your money. Unless you kill him again, he is a guy that's going to be fighting tooth and nail and has finishing power no matter where the fight takes place. So getting a plus line on Brandon Royval until he is so broken that a wind knocks him out, just a stiff breeze puts him down, I'm going to be backing this guy every time you give me a plus number. That's what I have put my hand over my heart and said, I'm backing Raw Dog until he's the UFC champion. As long as you give me a pick 'em or a plus line, my money will be on this kid. I'm hyped on him, maybe a little too much, but I'm going down with the ship. The end of story. Now, I had a feeling that there was one bet that I had already locked in that you did not like, Manpreet, and I've got a feeling that this is the one.
You are incorrect, Mr. Quintus Maximus. I do like Mr. Brandon Royval here as well, man. But I'm going to be attacking it from a different angle. I like the under 2.5 in this spot because I think both guys have finishing potential. Now, Brandon Royval is one of those guys that I love backing the unders in, right? The guy is so chaotic with his approach. He may not be skillfully one of the better guys. I think skill for skill, actually, in this fight, Pantoja is the better fighter. Let's be honest. That's skill for skill, hard facts on paper. Pantoja is the better BJJ guy. Pantoja is the better wrestler. Or Pantoja is the better striker. All of that. But it's the chaos that Brandon Royval introduces to his fights that fighters are not able to keep up with and not able to kind of cap. Like, how do you prepare for a guy like Brandon Royval who just throws crazy shit out there, spinning stuff, flying stuff, fucking rolling, whatever the hell it is? Brandon Royval does it so that he can eventually get you into a state of confusion and then take advantage of you. You know what I mean? There's the Tim Elliott fight was amazing for his first fight in the UFC, and seeing how upset he was with himself after that fight just shows you the type of fighter that he is. You got the win in your UFC debut against a UFC veteran who'd fought for the title already, and you're mad at yourself. You know, I'd love to see his coach, I think it was Mark Montoya, who went up to him and be like, hey, dude, fucking chin up, man. You got to win. You got to win in your UFC debut. And he's like, oh, man, you know, I wanted a better winner. I wanted a performance bonus. You know, I want to leave the job that I'm at and all that stuff. Things like that. And then he comes out there and, you know, has that performance against Kai Kara-France, the epitome of creating chaos and thriving within it. That's exactly what he did in that Kai Kara-France fight. And I think he could do that here against Pantoja. He can create chaos and eventually capitalize on it. Is he going to submit Pantoja by just taking him down and going the rudimentary way to get a submission? No. He's going to have to either club and sub him or find him a crazy submission of some sort. But I don't want to downplay Pantoja at all. That guy is a top 5 flyweight. He is a very solid fighter, very skilled, has been in crazy fights in the past, has come out on top, has seen almost all of it. But he hasn't seen a guy like Brandon Royval. That's the difference. But again, I don't want to overlook Pantoja too much, which is why I'm going to take the under 2.5 instead here as a bet. That's more than likely going to be my dog when I play this week. I think it's around plus 125, plus 130. I think there's a high clip or a high chance for this to finish inside the distance, whether it's Pantoja taking advantage of a vulnerable spot that Royval put himself in, or Royval vice versa. Yeah, man, I think that Royval is definitely the dark horse in this division. I absolutely agree with you. Again, people are going to continuously overlook him because of how sloppy and weird some of his fights look, but it seems like he knows what the fuck he's doing. He wants to create those situations and those scenarios so that he can come out on top. I like calling him the mini Tony Ferguson, right? Like, they go in there with this crazy fucking game plan of just doing whatever the hell they want. They just want this flow state and create chaos and then eventually find a submission or a TK or whatever the hell it might be. And more often than not, they're successful with it. You know what I mean? I would have loved to see that Moreno fight go a little bit deeper. And you are absolutely on the head here, on the nail, in terms of this fight being a number 1 contender fight. Just look at Royval just fought Brandon Moreno, who fucking won the title next, right? Like, Pantoja has a couple wins under his belt now. He could probably get a title shot too, right? Askarov is definitely out there who probably deserves a title shot as well. But man, don't overlook Royval. Again, skill for skill, Pantoja is the better fighter, but this is an MMA fight. And fucking Royval thrives on those chaotic scenes that he's able to put together here. So my pick is going to be Royval. I'm going to say probably second round, either TKO or sub, club and sub situation. Again, I know Pantoja is the much better jiu-jitsu player in this spot, but it's MMA. It's not just jiu-jitsu. It's MMA. Royval can create those situations. They could potentially find an opening for a finish. But the spot that I like the most is the under 2.5 because both guys can get the finish in this spot. So yeah, Royval is the pick, but the under is going to be the bet.
All right, man. I like that we line up here. I did not expect you to agree with me here. I did not expect you to be on the same side as me on this one. I thought you were going to tell me I was stupid, and how well-rounded Pantoja is something that we don't go against. And I totally understand that argument if that's the side anybody is taking, by the way. I do like your under, though. I like the under 2.5. I'm going to be a little bit different, though, man. I'm going to say that Brandon Royval wins this thing via spinning elbow. Like, he's going to get hurt by Pantoja and then spin at the time that nobody ever saw coming and clip him with some stupid thing like an elbow or a knee, rock him and put him down, TKO him, that kind of thing.
Well, we need to start off, anytime we break down this fight throughout this week, we need to start off with that disclaimer that, yes, we know Pantoja is the better fighter.
Yes.
But Royval creates chaos, and that motherfucker thrives in it. And I think that's what he's going to do here. Last thing I'll say about this matchup, it wasn't too long ago that a lot of people were saying that Pantoja has cardio issues too, right?
Right.
And if you're getting pushed by a guy like Royval, you're going to be huffing puffing sooner than later. So he may not have shown it in his last couple fights, but he hasn't fought a guy like Royval in the past. So I can't wait to see how this fight plays out. But hopefully the undercash is here.
Man, and I think we're looking at round 2 or round 3. I think that's probably when this fight ends, and we just have a spot where Pantoja, he controls the fight so well. Like, his last fight against Kopp was a perfect example of that. It's another explosive, offensive, chaotic type of fighter to an extreme lesser degree. And he controlled every aspect of that fight to win a very calculated decision. You do not beat Brandon Royval that way. I think once Royval starts the chaos, I honestly think Pantoja is going to get lost in there. And I do think he's the more skilled fighter. I do think he's more well-rounded. But I think that Royval is going to cause chaos, and he's going to survive in that area where he's been time and time again, and Pantoja isn't going to have an answer for some of the things that he does. So I do think he's going to end up catching him with something nobody sees coming. And like you mentioned, maybe those cardio issues rear their ugly head. Maybe when he slows down, the pace of Royval breaks him late. So I don't think it's going to be early. I think this is probably going to be round 2, maybe round 3. I'm going to be praying for that under 2.5 of yours. But I do think that it's going to be a little sweaty.
Plus 1,600 Royval round 3. So might need a little bit of that nice Clintus Maximus sprinkle.
Oh, stop. My penis can only get so erect.
Better lock that shit in now. I'm sure people are going to be hammering that throughout the week.
Oh, man. You know I'm in a round 3 sprinkle that shit. This is the exact kind of fight that I go for that on. I got to give another donation shout out here. We've got Porco Rosso. Thank you so much for the $10 donation, my friend. I'd rather be a DJ than a communist. Give me Pantoja. Totally understand the angle. Totally understand. There's going to be a lot of people on the Pantoja side, and hey, I could have plenty of egg on my face come next week. It's only a 1-unit shot for me at this point. We could be absolutely wrong here. We've both already admitted that Pantoja is the more well-rounded fighter. So is it going to surprise me if I lose my bet? Is it going to surprise me if Pantoja finds a way to lock Royval down and win this thing on the judges' scorecards? No, it's not going to. But I'm going down with this ship. I'm doing it.
I'll be right there with you.
All right. So at this point, I think we need to give away a little bit more merch. So we're going to have 2 more spots to give away. And instead of doing the t-shirt thing, so I know you guys are already going to start typing. Locke, I want you to pick a winner, and I'm going to pick a winner. We're going to give some of the deserving interactive chat members a shot here. And I think I'm going to go with the DX JC56. You're my winner. Pick, my friend. You got a t-shirt or a hat coming your way. Hit me up on Twitter. And if you don't have Twitter, first off, it's easy. You should have one. Go make one. But if you don't, I guess you can try to get a hold of me on Instagram. I'm over there as well. But you got to find me on social media somewhere if you win this thing. So we got one winner. Locke, who's your pick?
God damn. I'm just going to close my eyes and just see where my mouse lands as well.
There you go. Nothing wrong with some rando.
And I am going with Valerie Marcel.
Valerie Marcel with
maybe it's a
t-shirt.
female. Maybe somebody catfishing us, but Valerie it is.
Valerie it is. All right. Congratulations, the DXJC and Valerie. Congratulations on winning your Die Hard MMA merch. And we are going to move this show right along to our next fight because we're on the main portion of this card. And man, I talked about it before that these are some dumpster diving matchups, but I love them. These fights right now are fantastic in my opinion. We have got Vinc Pichel from hell. Vinc Pichel taking on my guy, Austin Thud Hubbard, which, man, I'm sorry. I don't know why, but Thud is like a top 10 MMA fight name for me. Like it doesn't roll off the tongue well at all, and you're just like, really? Thud, like the sound someone makes when they like collapse. Like it works. I like it. I think Thud is a really awesome MMA name. So we got to pick them here, folks. -110 across the board. Vinc Pichel is 13-2. Austin Hubbard 13-5. Needs to be said that Vinc Pichel is 38 years old. He is knocking on the door of that magical number 40. But this dude is a proven veteran. I mean, veteran savvy, physically powerful. I mean, this is a guy that you do not lock horns with and tend to do very well with. He breaks his opponents. He's a BJJ black belt, and the opposite, almost the polar opposite of Jim Miller. This man is position over submission. He will stay safe. He will make sure he's in a good spot, and he will just grind you into oblivion. He ground out his last two opponents, but one of those being Jim Miller. Those are guys that actually do accept bottom position, though. So I have a slight question about how dominant his grappling is at this late age. But at the same time, I must be clear, we cannot disrespect the skill set that Vinc Pichel brings to the UFC octagon. Now, Austin Hubbard, one of my favorite fighters. You guys know that this is one of my boys. I have tagged Austin Hubbard as a guy that I'm looking forward to his career. I think he's got all the pieces, training at elevation, never-ending gas tank. This guy gets taken down a lot. His takedown defense is 58%. He does not have good takedown defense, but he's got a get-up game that exhausts the person that's doing the taking down. He just wears you out by getting up and continuing to punch you in the face after you try again. He stays in your face. He's got a long jab. He attacks the low calf kick, and he just chops down the tree, man. He has no problem just hammering that leg from distance and taking his opponent's ability to move out. He controls range very well, and when he does end up in top position and scrambles, he's got a smothering top game. His wrestling from on top is actually relatively underrated. Austin Hubbard is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And statistically, these guys are almost identical. Vinc Pichel lands 3.2 significant strikes per minute. He absorbs 2.28. So lands 3.2, absorbs 2.2. Austin Hubbard lands 3.6 and absorbs 2.6. So they have the same exact differential from their striking. Austin Hubbard is just a little bit more active on the feet. Man, this is a spot that I immediately was going to jump on my boy Austin Hubbard. I wanted to jump all over it. And then I threw a tweet out there that I am trying to be better. I am trying to be a better, smarter sports gambler. And what I realized is that I don't think Austin Hubbard is a good bet. I'm going to pick Austin Hubbard to win. I do think that this is a changing of the guard moment where the younger fighter, where these two guys are very similar, just edges out, just does a little bit more, is on the rise instead of on the decline, and does enough to get the win. But at a pick'em price tag, when these guys are so similar, and we have seen Austin Hubbard lose exactly in the way that Vinc Pichel wins, I don't think that a pick'em price tag is a good bet on Austin Hubbard. So I'm picking Austin Hubbard to win, and I wish you luck if you bet him because he's the side I want to be on, but I'm emphasizing some restraint, and I'm not betting on the guy who I think is going to win. I'm looking for line value, and I don't see it here. So I'm going to be passing on this spot. Locke, how do you feel about this fight?
This is the fight that I was indicating at the top where I'm like, he's probably going to bet Hubbard.
Gotcha. Dodging bullets.
No, I do like Pichel here, man. Again, the only concern in this spot is the 38 years of age, right? That's like really the only thing that people can kind of hammer on because Pichel has a good takedown game. He has great top pressure. He's able to scramble with the best of them as we saw in his last fight with Jim Miller. I know Jim Miller is up there in age, but you can definitely not, look past his grappling and his credentials on the ground in terms of when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And Vinc Pichel did a really good job in the second and third rounds of their fight to nullify what Jim Miller was able to do off of his back. Austin Hubbard, like you said, he is getting better with his get-up game, right? Marco Madsen had trouble in terms of keeping him down, and it really started to gas out Mark Madsen. And luckily for Madsen, he was able to survive that third round onslaught and still win that decision. But this is Vinc Pichel, who I think has better cardio than Madsen. Yeah, I think that Madsen definitely has I think Pichel has better cardio than Madsen. I think he has better, experience. And although he's 38, his fight miles aren't that much, right? Like compared to most guys that are 38, they're having, 30, 40, 50 fights. And he's just over here with 15 fights now. He doesn't have that many fight miles on him. So maybe that goes in hand with the fact that he's 38 and kind of nullifies that, because he still goes out there and shows solid grappling, right? Like even the way that he was beating Roosevelt Roberts a couple fights ago, that was very impressive to me in a fight where he was the plus 200 underdog. Now you're telling me he's going up against a guy that, Austin Hubbard's best path to victory in this fight is outstriking him, keeping the fight on the feet and just outstriking him. Is he going to finish him? I don't think so. I think it's going to have to come via decision if Hubbard wins this fight, but he's going to be dealing with a grappling onslaught. And Pichel's striking is not that bad either. Like, I still think that it's good enough that he can compete with Hubbard, but Hubbard's kicks, like I said, that's the reason he got that nickname Thud Hubbard, is because of the sound the bags used to make every time he would kick them. So he definitely has a good kicking game, and we've definitely seen it on display in his last several fights. But I think he's going to struggle with the grapple heavy approach that he's going to be dealing with here with Pichel. I think Pichel will be successful in pushing him up against the cage. I think he could clinch fuck him for a solid couple minutes and win some minutes and win some rounds off of that. But I think ultimately he'll be able to drag the fight to the ground and have some good success from on top. So again, outside of the 38 years old, I think Vinc Pichel wins this fight, man. I think his durability is good enough to deal with the striking of Hubbard, and then I think that his takedowns and his ability to close distance is good enough to get a guy like Hubbard down. So I think Hubbard still has some things to work out in his game, and it's crazy that they just continuously give him grappler after grappler after grappler. And even in his last fight, Dakota Bush takes the fight on short notice, but solid grappler. But luckily for Hubbard, the guy took the fight on short notice, and Hubbard was able to go out there and outstrike him and beat him over 15 minutes. I think he's going to struggle to do that here against Vinc Pichel. From Hell is exactly what his nickname states. The guy goes out there, puts the pressure on you, wants to take you down, and ram your face to the canvas. I think we'll see Pichel win this fight via decision. I just want to take a quick peek at the Pichel via decision line here. Pichel via decision is currently sitting at plus 140. Not too bad of a spot, but even again, his straight line I think is not too bad either. So yeah, I do like Pichel here, and I think he was by decision.
Okay, I feel it, man.
Shout out to my guy King Huber. If I'm not mistaken, that's my guy David Huber, always in the lock of the night competitions, always in the dog of the night competitions. That man stays in the background like Tajik Bey and just drops gems in that contest. Shout out to my guy King Huber.
Yeah, the chat just knows me way too well. So I'm going to fight tooth and nail. I'm going to try and keep myself off of this fight. And man, Austin Hubbard, he's my third round guy. Like, Austin Hubbard, I think, was the guy I invented the third round sprinkle for, because the way he turns up when people are gassing, he's going to start finishing. Like, once he puts it all together, he's going to start finishing people using that gas tank as a weapon. Here's the thing. You don't finish Vinc Pichel. So even if Hubbard wins this fight, I simply don't think he has a way to get it done inside the distance. This thing's going to the judges' scorecards, because Austin Hubbard himself is a guy that's very, very difficult to finish, also has an incredible gas tank. Man, I've talked about it a couple of times, Locke, looking for the easy money, and not the easy money that everyone gets duped on, not the easy money that is set as a trap like Austin Hubbard at a pick'em price tag, but the low-hanging fruit. I think this fight goes to decision at minus 220 is a spot where I have a hard time seeing that go wrong. I mean, I know Vinc Pichel is older and could break a hip in there, but besides that, the way these guys fight, I don't know that anybody's actually going to get finished in this fight. And I think fight goes to decision at minus 220 might be a half-decent parlay piece. It's expensive. It's pricey. I don't know if I'm actually going to end up pulling the trigger on it or not, even after acknowledging that it exists. But I think it's a solid spot. I don't think this fight ends before we hit the judges' scorecards. Do you?
I don't. I'm trying to figure out who could get the finish, maybe Pichel via submission or ground and pound. But again, I don't think that he'll be able to muster up the scenarios and those situations where he's able to have enough control to posture up and get those things going. So yeah, Hubbard's done a good job in terms of nullifying the amount of damage that comes down on him when opponents are able to get into those positions, outside of Joe Selecki, who just hopped on his back and he goes, hey, let me just take this neck home with me. I don't think that Vinc Pichel is going to do that either. Joe Selecki, I'm very, very high on that kid. I think his BJJ is really, really good. Outside of that first round that he had against Jim Miller. But yeah, I don't think Vinc Pichel is on that level in terms of jiu-jitsu, and I'd be surprised if he finds that same opening. So yeah, I think it's going to be a decision no matter who ends up winning this fight.
Okay, well, we definitely agree on that point. Absolutely. All right, we're head-to-head there, but I am not putting my money on it yet so far, probably.
People set your notifications. Clint might be
Pray for me.
Right day. I love it.
All right, that one, it's really going to be tough, man, because I love that kid. That's another one where I've got the bias, but not nearly as strong as some of my other ones. So I think I'll be able to resist this one. All right, next fight coming up, we've got Parker Porter taking on Chase Sherman, the big boys. And let me just lead off by go ahead and saying, guys, we're not allowed to call Parker Porter Parker Porker anymore. If you have gone to this man's Instagram, he has dedicated himself to this shit, and he is not the flabby man that I accidentally called Porker one time several episodes ago. Yeah, Dan Goldstein already correcting me. It's pronounced Porker. Dan's an OG of the chat. Yeah, man. He's in shape. He is in much better shape. He has really taken this thing seriously, and we all kind of felt like he was a COVID era fill-in. This is a guy who was never supposed to make it to the UFC. This is a guy that was going to make $500 on weekends, you know, fighting side gig bums. Like, he was not ever going to be a professional high-level fighter, and he got an opportunity due to COVID, and he's really taken advantage of that. I mean, a lot of people counted him out in his last 2 fights in a row, and he's actually put up the goods. Parker Porter is a serious fighter, and he's improving his skill set late in his career here. I can't take anything away from the man. He's got running back level thighs, man. He is all lower body. Kind of reminds me like Devin Clark, someone who's just incredibly explosive because of all that weight. His legs are like tree trunks. And he's aggressive. He gets in front of you. He swarms you. He fights in combinations, which I love seeing. He's not a one-hitter quitter type of guy. He's constantly keeping his punches in your face. Good knees from the clinch. His head movement and his boxing were way improved his last fight out. And honestly, he's got stupid cardio for how he looks. He's the new version of Roy Nelson. He's like the new Roy Nelson. You look at this guy and you're like, you should not be a professional fighter, and you certainly shouldn't be able to keep up that pace for 15 straight minutes, but he freaking does. Like, he just goes out there and does the damn thing. Great cardio. And when he gets on top of you, you do not want to be underneath this man. Chase Sherman, 15-7. He moved out to Sanford MMA. Let me just start with that. That is a solid move for a young up-and-coming heavyweight fighter like Chase Sherman. He's another one of these guys. I'm going to go way back to the beginning of the show, Locke. We talked about Roosevelt Roberts. You know, you pay your dues, you make your mistakes, you do your dumb shit, and then you get serious. And then you find the right gym, and then you start putting it all together. That really feels like Chase Sherman to me at this stage of his career. And moving to a gym like Sanford, I only expect more improvements from him. Now, he's got big power, and he is willing to go to war every single time he steps into that cage. He stands tall, walks his opponents down. He drops his hands. He's another one of these guys that plays with his hands low and relies on his chin, and he's paid for that multiple times. He's got good killer instinct. He flurries on his opponents when they're hurt, and he showed a new level of patience against Andrei Arlovski. That was a fight that I legitimately thought Andre was going to score the first knockout he's had in years, and he showed, Chase Sherman that is, showed that he has a new level of restraint, and that's that next step up. He is getting better. He's got gas tank issues. Even in that Andrei Arlovski fight, fighting an older fighter, man, by the second minute of round 2, instead of watching Andre, he's doing this. He's looking up at the clock about every 10 seconds. When do I get out of this round, man? When do I get out of this round? So that's kind of the one thing with Chase Sherman is I'm not sure he's capable of a good gas tank. He might be one of these guys that is just reliant on that early finish and never gets to the point where he can really put a full performance for 15 minutes together. I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't want to completely count him out. But he does have a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot, does Chase Sherman. And he has a very, very nasty, new, shiny, fadeaway left hook. Look, this fight seems so scripted in my head. If I had the crystal ball to pull out for you, Parker likes to blitz. He comes in fast. He comes in heavy, he puts his head down, and then he really overextends on his punches. And Chase Sherman's left hook was this close to killing Andre Arlovsky in that last fight on more than one occasion, but Andre was wise to it. Andre's a savvy veteran. He was sneaky. He knew how to avoid that thing. I think Parker's going to run right into it. I think that Parker is going to absolutely run blindly into the left hand of Chase Sherman. And Chase Sherman is a guy with power that you just cannot mess with. Parker has been knocked out a couple of times before. We know that chin can be cracked. The only thing for me is that if Chase Sherman doesn't get this round one knockout, he is the kind of fighter that you can have some serious success against if he doesn't get that early finish. I think that the volume of Parker, I think the gas tank of Parker can cause some serious issues for Chase if this fight gets extended. So because of that, I absolutely can't lay a minus 190 price tag on a guy like Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman by knockout, now you're more speaking my language. I feel like Chase Sherman has a very good chance of ending this thing and ending it early. And if Parker proves me wrong, I definitely don't want to be laying minus 200 on him. And Parker's a guy that I've backed. Parker's a guy that I've looked to backing. He's that underdog story, man. Like I said, he's not supposed to be here. So I absolutely want to see him do well and succeed, and it would make me so happy to see him grind away on Chase Sherman and maybe even TKO this guy late when he gets tired. Total set at 2.5. This might be a violence bet spot, man. The under 2.5, minus 145, that might be the safest way to play it. But I think it's either Chase Sherman early with that left hook like I talked about, or it's going to end up being Parker late when Chase Sherman ends up slowing down.
It's funny that people have kind of like pinned Parker Porter and Jay Collier to my name for some reason. Like I obviously I called Collier over who the fuck did he beat by decision? Gian Vellante. And then after that, I think the week after that is when Parker Porter beat Josh Parisian by decision. And on the prop and UP show that I did with Cody that week, I put out the play of Parker Porter by decision at plus 850, and everybody was just kind of like ragging on me for it, right? And it was more so like it was a tongue-in-cheek kind of suggestion, right? I'm like, oh, if he doesn't get knocked out here, he could probably go out there and outvolume Josh Parisian and put it on him, and that's exactly what he fucking ended up doing. He could do the same thing here, but you are right. The durability is a little bit of a concern for me because I do think that Chase does have a little bit of knockout power still left. I will admit, Chase Sherman definitely honey dicked me last time around, especially with his performance against Ike Villanueva, where he looked like a fucking world beater, just absolutely destroying the lead leg of Ike Villanueva and then eventually putting him out. And then the Andre Arlovsky, he just puts up an absolute goose egg, right? He doesn't have much success in that fight. Even though he's the one kind of marching forward the entire time, he's not throwing anything. He's kind of just telling Andre Arlovsky, let's fight. But Arlovsky's the one looking for his spots, finding the spots, getting his combinations off, and scoring. So what the fuck does Chase Sherman have to be mad about, right? He had 15 minutes to try to track this guy down and try to knock him out, and he couldn't.
Gotta make it happen.
Right. And you're right. And a lot of the time he was looking up to the clock as well, too, because I do think that he was, I think that whatever he was on in that Ike Villanueva fight, which he popped for that fight. That fight is now a no contest, I believe. I think whatever he was on back then definitely aided him in that fight against Ike Villanueva. However, I will give him a slight pass because if I'm not mistaken, that fight was somewhat short notice and his return to the UFC. So maybe he was taking some shit that he could when he was fighting on island fights, but not here in the UFC. He's not going to be able to get away with it. It is a little surprising to me that he decided to mix it up and go down to Sanford MMA. You guys know I love Sanford as much as I love Fortis, so I think that's a great move for Chase Sherman. But it comes down to, is he going to be able to have enough gas to go out there and actually implement a game plan over 15 minutes? I think it is predicated highly on him getting in the early finish in this spot. And if he doesn't, I think that Porter has that hard-nosed type of style to go out there and win minutes in rounds 2 and round 3. Even if it's just clinching up Chase Sherman up against the cage and just winning some minutes off of there, landing some knees, some Charlie horses, whatever the hell you want to call it, and just mix up some dirty boxing, I think he can win some minutes. And again, those blitz attacks I think will really help him. It's the durability that scares me a little bit. I'm seeing some people talk about the under 1.5 in this spot, and I would rather take Sherman by KO rather than the under 1.5 because I think if there is a finish, it probably comes from the Sherman side. But I like the over 1.5. I think this is going to be one of those fights where neither of them really finds the target, and it's going to come down to who threw more and who landed more the later that this fight goes. I do think that Sherman's power will start to subside as the fight gets deeper, and then I think that we'll see the volume, the blitz attacks, and the control time of Parker Porter really start to add up. Again, Parker Porter is like the the joke in the MMA gambling community, right? Just his physique and everything about him. I get it. I kind of understand it. But the guy's still out there and he can do some solid work. And I think he could do that here against Chase Sherman. So if he doesn't get blasted in the first round, I think he has a good shot of winning a decision here. So why not take another stab at him to win this fight via decision? And him via decision is sitting at plus 425. I like that number. I don't mind.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, I definitely think you can go out there and control it round 2 and round 3. So yeah, I feel much better at plus 165 for Porter than I do minus 190 on Chase Sherman. But yeah, I think there's some other good dog spots on this card that you could put your money on. But I do like Porter in this situation, and I'll probably be his biggest fan in the stands come fight night. So you might hear me screaming out, "Let's go, Porter!" But yeah, I do like him in the spot. I do think he's going to win.
I love it. I love it. And Porco Rosso agrees with you. Thank you for the $5 donation, my friend. Stay true. Yeah, I feel you. Kind of like I talked about, man, Chase Sherman, you can't lay chalk on that guy. You just can't. So the line is wide. This is a dog or pass from a money line betting situation for me. And I'm absolutely going to be cheering for Parker Porter. And somebody did the 1-800 round 3 sprinkle, Parker Porter round 3. And I'm like, I could be talked into it.
The thing is, I don't think he slowed down a lot in the third round against Arlovsky, right? He was still marching forward, but he just wasn't throwing any volume out there. That's the issue. He's just
that's because
forward.
Arlovsky fades away, though. Arlovsky was not looking to engage. He knew he had it in the bag. He was looking to stay safe. He was being a veteran. Parker is a guy that still is out there for blood and hunger. He's out there still trying to hurt somebody. He's not the savvy dude that's going to back away. He's going to look for takedowns. He's going to look to stay in the face of Chase Sherman. So, like, totally different styles, man. I think if Parker Porter is much more live for a finish than Andrei Arlovsky was, just because of the way they fight.
I agree. Yeah, I'm going to keep my eye on that plus 425. I'll probably sprinkle that. But even at plus 165, I think there's decent value on Porter here.
Man, I do agree. I've only made 3 bets so far on this card, and I'm trying to be very selective about the other bets that I add, because what I've been doing lately is just rapid firing machine gun bets all over the place, and then I end up pissing away the profit from my good spots. I end up betting too many spots, ones that I'm not as confident on, and I win the ones that I really think I'm going to do well with, or the spots that I snipe that have incredible value on, but then I end up just losing the rest of it away because I've bet too much. So I'm really trying to rein it in at least early in the week, hammer the spots I really like, and then go a little bit harder maybe later in the week after I've had a little more information, do the Friday post weigh-in show. So I've got a couple leans. Those may or may not become bets for me later on because I'm going to try to be a little bit more tactful.
I feel like this card could be trap heavy. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many spots where I feel quite confident, like Saldana and Roberts and Malecki, even Brian Kelleher. And I'm trying to be like super disciplined in terms of I'm only going to pick, Kelleher, or I'm going to be honest, Kelleher and Roberts are probably my biggest leans right now. And I'm probably going to pull the trigger on one of them. I wish we still had that Martinez and Jones fight, because I probably would have pulled the trigger on the under 2.5 if that's what the widely available line was. But here we are. Trevin Jones, still no fucking opponent.
Man, I'm right there with you. That was going to be a good spot. That was going to be a violent spot all day for sure. Hopefully he gets a new good opponent. Maybe we get an opportunity to line that one back up when they get him a replacement.
Yep.
We'll see. All right, everybody. We are moving this show right along. Co-main event time. We've got Clay Guida taking on Mark O. Madsen, the Olympian. And this is one of the most hotly contested fights I think I have seen on the internet. Like, Zelda, shut up. Sorry, you can hear my dog going off in the background.
No worries. It's not too distracting.
So Clay Guida, 36-17. Absolute veteran, absolute legend in the UFC these days. He's been around forever. He's first generation upright caveman. Mark Madsen, 10-0, undefeated, Olympic level wrestler making his transition over into MMA. Very late in his career, though. He's not a spring chicken. This dude's 36 years old. Clay Guida turned back the clock, man, his last fight. He looked incredible against Michael Johnson. I was lucky enough to squeeze in there with a late bet on him, cashed as an underdog there with Clay Guida, and he looked phenomenal. Like, Johnson really didn't have much for him. He hurt him once or twice with that big power, but Clay was primarily in control of that fight. He's moved out to Team Alpha Male, and he was kind of a nomad before, hopping around, switching gyms, doing a lot, and he seems to have settled at Team Alpha Male, and it's a good look for him. The dude is still physically in solid shape, very strong. He's a good wrestler. He's a strong grappler, and he's sitting down on his punches more. It seems like Clay Guida's got the old man, I'm going to steer into my power thing going on right now, that the last thing to go is that power, and Clay went, all right, fuck it. Like, I'll just punch harder then, because he hit Michael Johnson with some bombs, man. He had him rocked a couple times with these really awkward shovel hooks that he's been throwing. They're kind of half uppercut, half hook, and he got some pop on those bad boys. He's got a underrated offensive submission game, and he actually backpacked Michael Johnson in the third round, almost put him away in the third with a rear naked choke in that last fight. I couldn't be more impressed with Clay Guida, I guess is what I'm getting at here. Could not be more impressed with this late version of Clay Guida that we're seeing here. Marco Madsen, I completely confused this man with Mike Grundy. When I saw this fight line up, I'm sitting here going, oh, baby, we know that Clay Guida, he gets submitted. He gives up his neck like all the time. Like, that's his Achilles heel. He always ends up getting choked out. And this guy, the squeeze on him, he almost put away one of the top No. That was Grundy. This is Madsen. Totally different guy. Another bald white guy. I know you can confuse us all. It's very, very easy. But he's an Olympic level wrestler with some heavy hands, but he can hardly land on anybody because his striking is god-awful. He has these big winging punches. If he hits you, it will hurt. That's the tough part. He doesn't really have submissions, though. He's very positional, just kind of grinds on people with his wrestling. And I think that that's going to be a problem against a guy like Clay Guida, who's a very adept MMA wrestler. He's been wrestling and grappling for MMA forever. And he's very physically strong. I think Mark obviously has the advantage, but I don't think he's going to be ultra dominant like a lot of people are expecting him to be. And on top of that, he's got a bad gas tank, man. He's another one of these guys. Austin Hubbard was my boy against Mark Madsen. I had to bet on Hubbard, and I had the round 3 sprinkle on Hubbard, and he almost did it. He hit Mark Madsen with some big knees in that third round. I thought we were going to get the stoppage. It wasn't meant to be, but it was close. And Clay Guida is a guy that never slows down. This is going to be a cardio concern. Now, the one elephant in the room that I have to address, Mark Madsen moved to fight ready. He went to my camp, man. He went to my gym. And this might be the first time in the history of MMA betting that I still want to go against my guy. Like, I think Clay Guida is live here, Lock. I think Clay Guida is going to cause problems for Mark Madsen. I think his awkward style and his never-ending gas tank are just going to be an issue. And I've said before that people like Henry Cejudo is a perfect example. Someone who made it to the Olympics, that knows that drive, that knows that dedication. They can add new wrinkles to their game that us mere mortals can't, because they know the work, the effort level that it takes to succeed in a sport like this. So if you give Mark Madsen 1 year, he's probably going to become a phenomenal striker because he knows how to put that work in. And Fight Ready is the kind of camp that's going to give someone those tools. However, I've never seen anything from Mark Madsen that leads me to believe he's going to do anything but wrestle. I think he's too late in the game. And again, this may be, me maybe counting somebody out where I shouldn't. But I'm not sold that Mark Madsen is going to be that guy that leaps levels unexpectedly. I think he's going to come out here and grind. I think he's going to try to wrestle Clay Guida. And if plan A fails, plan B is out wrestle Guida. Like, that's all he's got. He's just going to wrestle. And I think Clay Guida can outland this guy on the feet. And I think if he slows down, Clay Guida can choke this guy out in the third round. I think that there's opportunities for Clay Guida to steal rounds 2 and 3 potentially, and maybe even come from behind with a finish. I don't know that I like it enough to actually bet it, but I think Clay Guida is very live in this spot, Lock. What do you think about this one?
Dude, you're stealing the words out of my mouth. I absolutely agree in this spot, man. Again, another spot similar to Pantoja and Royval, where like on paper, Madsen definitely has the better wrestling here and should be able to get the better of the grappling exchanges early in this fight. But we've seen a huge concern regarding his cardio, especially when he goes late into fights. Yeah, he's going to look great, in setup fights in his regional scene, just going out there, grapple fucking guys, getting arm triangles, whatever the fuck he's doing over there. And then, getting that UFC debut against Danilo Belluardo, where he just subs him immediately. But then you see the Austin Hubbard fight and you see, okay, like when he is dealing with some resistance, he starts to maybe panic a bit, starts to stress out. That affects his gas tank. And then it's a little bit harder for him to complete takedowns and not look like a dead man walking. With Clay Guida, we know we're always going to get that Energizer Bunny type a work rate out of him, right? The guy is just ever moving, he's just never still. And that's going to be difficult for Marco Madsen to truly track down. He might be able to secure takedowns early in this fight. And I do think that he could get those takedowns. Is he going to get the submission, though? I don't think so. And then he's going to be working to try to keep Clay Guida down. That's only going to burn the gas tank more and more. And we know Clay Guida can go 25 minutes if he needs to. And I think that this is a perfect spot for him to go out there, maybe take a bit of that Homer Simpson approach by getting grapple fucked in the first round. But after that, it's going to be a little bit harder for Madsen to track down those takedowns. And even if he does, it's going to be harder for him to even hold him down. We know Guida thrives in those types of grappling, scrambling sequences. And I don't think that Marco Madsen has that crazy BJJ skill like a Jim Miller or any other people that have caught him in submissions. I don't think he has that type of skill that he'll be able to snatch on a submission here against Clay Guida. I like the fact that he's gone to fight ready. I know he's been there for about 3 months now, and that's a decent amount of time for a guy like that to get some solid work in, but it's not enough to fix your cardio issues, fix the striking issues that you have as well. And I'm not saying Clay Guida's an Israel Adesanya on the feet or anything like that, but he is still well-versed enough to know the proper positions he needs to be in those striking realm to be, defensively sound, especially against a guy that has striking struggles like a Marco Madsen. But we know that the majority of this fight is going to take place in the clinch and the grappling, but it's the cardio. Who has the enough gas in the tank to go out there and implement that? It's going to be Guida. I think, from maybe the 6 minute or 7 minute mark, it's going to start to flip, and we'll see Guida actually with his cardio, with the wrestling that he has too. I think it'll be enough for him to go out there and, out Marco Madsen. I think that he's going to be able to do that because he's going to have the better gas tank here. And again, it's the joke thing to do. It's the weird thing to do to go out there and back guys like a Clay Guida, who are up there in age. But when you see, the advantages that they should potentially have, and a lot of them being cardio, you got to take advantage of it, man. Marco Madsen is a very solid, skilled fighter, but I think a lot of his win conditions are predicated on him either winning the first 2 rounds decisively or getting an early submission. And I think this is a fight where the work rate is going to be high. He's going to start to gas, and then we'll see Guida start to take over. So, I don't mind a Guida sprinkle in this spot. Not even a sprinkle. Plus 140 is a great fucking line. I think this is a great spot for him to go out there and pull off the upset. Again, we could look like complete dweebs come fucking Sunday, but I do think that this is a pre-fight. I think this is a solid spot where you can say that the cardio is definitely going to be enough of an edge for Clay Guida to get the dub in this spot. So yeah, I'm going Guida decision. I saw somebody throwing out there he hasn't had a finish. I think he's had 1 finish in 10 years. So I'm not sure if he'll be able to get the finish here and gas out.
The guy with cardio issues, though, is the guy he would do it against.
Yes, yeah, that is a possibility. What's that Guida round 3 year?
Guida that's a great.
3,
I haven't even looked.
Plus 1100. I honestly thought it would be more than that. Yeah, I thought it'd be more than that. So I'll probably.
How is it just plus 1100? Oh, so that's highway robbery, man.
They're smart to it. They're privy to it. They know what's up. They know Madsen is a basket tank. But yeah, Guida decision plus 290. Give me that. I'm on Guida here.
Those bastards. I can't believe it's only.
I love how dumbstruck you are right now.
It's not even. For a guy that never finishes though, how could it not be 26-1 or something? That makes me mad. Now it's almost not worth it at 11-1 because that's not the right number.
Yeah, no, damn, dude, they know Madsen gasses.
Yeah,
and, that's apparently a likable or a likely outcome if Guida really wants to put the foot on the gas and try to get him out of there. And yeah, I want to shout out to Aiden Samo here. Live bet Guida after round 1. I absolutely agree. You're probably going to get a better number on him going into round 2.
Honestly,
take some of him live.
That is a solid read. That is a solid read right there. If he gets out of round 1, which he will, because let's be real, Marco Madsen's not finishing Clay Guida. Yeah, for sure. And what I'm going to do though on this one is be patient. I'm going to wait, because I've seen nothing but Mark Madsen love online. I think this line's going to get wider. I think we're going to get the opportunity to bet a little better number on Clay Guida before Saturday. I'm going to sit tight. If I lose the number and I don't end up making a bet on Clay Guida, I'm willing to risk that in this particular position, because if I can get plus 150, plus 160, something like that, I'd like that a whole hell of a lot better than plus 135. So I'm just going to be patient for the moment and see how high this thing gets. And if it crashes down to plus 120 or plus 110, I'll just pass. I'll just stay away from the fight entirely.
I could definitely see this line kind of ballooning a little bit more, especially if people just wanted to fade Clay Guida at this point in his career. But again, that cardio is just way too much of a sore thumb in Marco Madsen's game that I can't overlook that. Again, you're banking on this guy to win a round and a half and then survive. I don't know. I'm good. I'm good without that.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Agreed, man. All right. Shout out to Adam here in the chat. I did not miss the Al Hassan fight. It has been moved. The Al Hassan fight is now on the 28th, I believe. So next week, Al Hassan is going to be back in the cage. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't see what happened, but they moved it back a week. And then shout out to F. Carrillo. Thank you so much, my friend. I didn't forget you. I've been saving you for a break in the action. $10 donation. Clint, you're the GOAT. Love the passion for MMA button. And everybody smash the like. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I really do, from the bottom of my heart. All right, everybody. It is main event time. Do me a favor. Like my guy said, smash that like button. We've got just shy of 300 live viewers here on Monday. And we are breaking down Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastelum. What a fight. This one has me all kinds of wrapped up right now, Lock. I do not know what to do with myself here. Jared Cannonier, 13-5. Kelvin Gastelum, 17-7. Jared is another guy I've got a soft spot for. He's another one of these guys, bloomed late in MMA, started at heavyweight, got his shit together, was incredibly unhealthy, got himself all the way down to the absolute sculpted monster we see on fight nights at 185 from being a 265-pound man. Just an incredible transformation that Jared Cannonier has gone through. And he carries that heavyweight power all the way down with him. This guy can knock out anybody in the weight class, but he's very meat and potatoes. Very heavy on his feet, very plodding, moves forward, aggressive. He's got good wrestling. His ground and pound is probably my favorite thing about him. If he gets you down and has control of you underneath him, you're not going to last long in that position. He does wing heavies and can end the fight at any point in time, but we just saw him get absolutely outclassed by Robert Whittaker. A spot where I invented the rule: we don't fade the Reaper. He was just a guy that couldn't keep up. It was that simple. Robert Whittaker made him look like he was standing still. Kelvin Gastelum, we all know the issues KG has had. He's a guy that we think should be able to fight at 170, continues to fight at 185 for God knows what reason. And Locke, I can't believe it. Dude's not even 30 yet. I don't know why, but I thought Kelvin was like 33, 34 years old. He's been around so long. He's been around absolutely forever, fighting tooth and nail at the top of the weight class, that I thought he was much, much older. But the kid is not even 30 years old yet. He is just coming into his prime as a fighter. So I was almost ready to write off Kelvin Gastelum, and then I realized, much like I did with Song a week or two ago, that would have been a deadly mistake, because this kid still has room to grow. This kid still has very good years in front of him. I think we may have seen the final version of Jared Cannonier. He got into the sport late. He had to play catch up. Now he's here. And I think that maybe we've seen the final version of him, but Kelvin Gastelum is a guy that we can't count out. He's got fast hands, good footwork, good movement. He does wrestle relatively well, but he's hit a bad rough patch, man. He's 1-4 in his last 5. His only win came over Ian Heinisch, and he did that purely based on his grappling chops. I really don't want to count Kelvin Gastelum out here, but I've got my gut just says Jared, and I know that's all recency bias. I know the whole thing is recency bias, that my gut says Jared Cannonier. But I feel like Kelvin Gastelum, if he is still this shell version of himself, if he comes in and tries to grapple with Cannonier, that's going to end poorly. That's just going to end poorly. If he pulls the Robert Whittaker and he tries to matador this guy, stick and move, stay on the outside, use his speed. He is the smaller guy. He is the lighter guy. He does have a speed advantage here. Maybe he can pull that off. Maybe he can absolutely stick and move. Can he do it for 25 minutes? I don't know, man. He sits on his punches too hard. He likes to get in there and brawl. He likes to get in there and scrap. We saw the fight with Israel Adesanya. He doesn't always stick to that slick striking, I'm not going to get touched game plan. I think he gets touched, and I don't know if he can take the heat that Jared Cannonier is bringing at this point. Kelvin Gastelum's one of these guys that I feel like is just drowning at the upper end of the division right now, and he can make adjustments, he can make improvements, but this feels like a really bad matchup for him, man. Jared Cannonier has a 2-inch height advantage. He's going to be much bigger, and he's got a 6-inch reach advantage. So where Robert Whittaker was a guy that could get in and get out and avoid the bombs of someone like Jared Cannonier, that 6-inch reach advantage against Gastelum is going to make a massive difference in Kelvin trying to recreate that game plan. And then what we've seen from Kelvin lately is a desire to not brawl, not strike, which is his best game plan, but to grapple. And that's really honestly been where his deficiency's been for the most part. That's where he's been beaten a lot. And going in there against someone who's bigger and thicker and stronger against Cannonier, I just feel like Kelvin Gastelum is going to end up in a bad position and maybe even underneath Cannonier for some kind of a TKO victory. I don't like this number whatsoever. Again, I really don't like it. I feel like everyone and their mom is all over Jared Cannonier, and it's just the most obvious spot on the card, and those always make me suspicious. And like I said, the fact that Kevin Gastelum is not even 30 years old yet, I can't count him out this early. I don't like this main event, Lock. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it very, very closely. I'm going to say Jared Cannonier wins. I mean, it's kind of now or never for this man. But I'm fully aware that Kelvin Gastelum can really show up and shock some people this week. I'm curious your take on this one.
First and foremost, plus 175 for Kelvin Gastelum as the opener is a spit in the face.
Wow.
Right? Like, how the fuck do you open this fight at plus 175 for Kelvin Gastelum? Like even looking at this fight from on paper or on the surface, outside of the knockout power that Jared Cannonier has, like skill-wise, what is he better than against Kelvin Gastelum, right? Like he has good power.
He's better at muscles.
He's better at muscles, right? Better at cutting weight and being disciplined, unlike Kelvin Gastelum, who can't fight at 170 because he can't drop a taco when he needs to. But with that said, I think this is Kelvin Gastelum's fight to win, man. I truly think that he's a better fighter all around. A lot of his success has come from the fact that he's super durable, right? Israel Adesanya went 5 rounds with this guy. Almost finished him with a couple minutes left in that 5th round. Don't get me wrong, but like we've never seen Kelvin Gastelum, close to getting knocked out or anything like that. He had that heel hook, lost to Jack Hermanson a couple fights back, and that was a weird fight as well. I didn't really. I have no idea what the fuck happened to Kelvin that night, but he gets heel hooked by the much bigger, stronger Jack Hermanson. But are we going to see Jared Cannonier go out there and try to heel hook or get a rear naked choke on Kelvin Gastelum? No, Kelvin Gastelum is a solid grappler, man. And I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to Robert Whittaker for being a very good wrestler himself, right? That he's training often with like the Australian wrestling team. And, a lot of people credit him for being a very good wrestler, but just people strictly think he's a knockout artist and think he's a striker. He's not. He's a great all-around fighter, and he was able to showcase that in the Kelvin Gastelum fight. But Kelvin Gastelum still has some great chops, man. The guy's a good scrambler, has some good takedowns himself, and I think he will be able to get Jared Cannonier down, and maybe not at will, but I think he'll land a couple takedowns there if he needs them. His striking, it's very blitz-based. He throws a lot of 1-2s, but there's a lot of power behind them, which is why he's able to knock out a lot of his opponents in the past. You know what I mean? The Ian Heinisch fight, I felt like he probably could have got a knockout in that fight, but he played a good all-around game, especially with being on that tumultuous run he was going into that fight. So yeah, the last 5 doesn't look that great for Kelvin Gastelum, but the way that this fight matches up, I feel like he's a very good spot as an underdog here against Jared Cannonier, who, in my opinion, I think he'd like. I saw somebody talking about leg kicks. That is definitely a good game plan that he could probably come into this fight with, right? Just chew that lead leg of Kelvin Gastelum and start to let your hands go, and maybe a knockout transpires. But how can you say Kelvin Gastelum's going to get knocked out when he's been taking so many heavy shots throughout his career and still keeps chugging forward? At a certain point, it's going to show up, but can we guarantee that it's going to be this weekend? Is Jared Cannonier going to do enough to win minutes, to win rounds? I don't think so. I think Kelvin Gastelum can mix it up well enough that like he should be able to get in and out with those blitz attacks and land some good shots on Jared Cannonier. He should be able to land a couple takedowns the later that this fight goes and maybe get some control time on the ground. This is a tough one for Cannonier. I don't know how he opened up as such a big favorite. We're seeing the money come in on Gastelum. There's a reason, the line is now plus 125 for Gastelum. And shout out to Uncle Weezy, man. The fight goes to decision is probably a solid spot. The only way I probably see this fight getting a finish is if Kelvin Gastelum pulls off a submission. If he gets Jared Cannonier tired enough later in this fight and eventually finds a neck or something like that. He is a very good jiu-jitsu player in his own right. He has those skills. But I think in this spot, like it's gonna be careful of the leg kicks, be careful of the power of Jared Cannonier. But even if those things land, we know that we can rely on Gastelum's durability to be able to withstand that, keep coming forward, and just do what Gastelum does. So again, on paper, I feel like skill for skill outside of the power from Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum hasn't beat him all in all of those spots. It's just, can he go in there and perform and actually showcase it? And again, 29 years old, like you're saying, the guy can still make improvements. And I think we'll see that this week. And especially on the tumultuous run he's on. He doesn't want to be 30 years old, headed to PFL or Bellator. Hell no. You know what I mean? This is one of those guys that we have the highest of potentials for this guy. Now he seems like he's truly settled into that 185-pound division. He should be able to go out there and implement a solid game plan against Jared Cannonier and get the dub. I like Cannonier, but I don't think that this is a good matchup for him. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Gastelum, and I think that's going to be his downfall in this fight. If he can implement a solid calf kicking game, good for him. That's probably the best way he gets it. But that's another opportunity for Gastelum to catch one of those leg kicks, try to get a takedown, and try to ground out some top position as well. So, final prediction on this fight. I'm going Gastelum. I'm going Gastelum via decision, but I wouldn't mind taking a little bit of a sprinkle on Gastelum late in the fight as well. But again, we haven't seen Cannonier go the full 25 minutes in the past, and that's a little bit of a concern because we don't know what it's going to look like the deeper that this fight goes. But I do like Gastelum here, and I'm going to say by decision.
I couldn't agree more with you on all points, man. I like anybody that got that opener. If you got plus 200 on Kelvin Gastelum, holy crap! Like, what were they thinking? I would hammer plus 200 on Kelvin Gastelum in the spot. I would love that dog shot here. And yeah, I think that this is a very, very trappy, very deceiving type of situation. And I can't help it. My own gut tells me that Jared Cannonier is just going to blow through Kelvin Gastelum because he's shot. And I think that's wrong. I just think that that's wrong. I'm very tempted to literally fade myself and go on Kelvin Gastelum here because I can see all the points. He's the much more well-rounded fighter. He's the much younger fighter. He's got proven 5-round cardio. Like, there's just so many factors that Kelvin Gastelum being the underdog just doesn't make a ton of sense. I do think that the potentially safest bet is maybe going to be the over. What we're seeing right now, I think, is a line set at 4.5. If I can get the alternate 3.5, it looks like there's a minus 135 for the over 3.5. That's kind of the sweet spot that I like here. You know, not necessarily make it go all 5. Give me that last little bit of opportunity for someone to get a finish there at the very end. Over 3.5 kind of feels like the spot to me because I don't see Kelvin finishing Jared Cannonier. I really don't. For me, I'm kind of the opposite of you. If I see a finish manifesting here, it's because Jared Cannonier lands a bomb of some kind. I think he's solid enough everywhere. I think he's durable enough everywhere that I don't see Kelvin Gastelum getting him out of there. So that said, you don't knock out Kelvin Gastelum. Nobody knocks out Kelvin Gastelum. And even though Jared Cannonier is a guy with ungodly power, we've seen that he gets outclassed on the feet. And if he can't land multiple bombs, is he really going to be the guy to KO Kelvin Gastelum with a one-hitter quitter? Is he going to be the first one? I don't think so. I think this one's going to the judges' scorecards, man. I think you got a good, solid read on that. And I think Kelvin Gastelum, especially by decision, is probably a really sneaky way to play this and maybe get the best value out of the fight. Because I do think it's going over. I do think the wrong guy potentially is favored. And there's a good chance that you're going to get a nice, juicy, fat plus number on Kelvin Gastelum to win this thing by decision. So don't hate that whatsoever, man.
Saturday night could be the night that Gastelum's chin eventually ends up cracking, but it's hard to predict that pre-fight. You know what I mean? It's super hard to predict that pre-fight. Cannonier does have that power. I just don't think it's going to translate in this fight. And I again, that as soon as I saw that plus 175 on Gastelum, I was like, God damn it, what the fuck were these odds makers thinking? And luckily the public was privy enough to actually drive that line back down to plus 125. But yeah, I like Gastelum in the spot, and I can't wait for that fight. It should be a fun fight.
If nothing else, it's going to be a fun fight. It's one of those ones where we'll be holding our breath because the fact that Jared Cannonier can end it with one shot, all of us are going to be on the edge of our seats waiting for that to happen. Even in, the second, the third, the fourth round, there's always going to be that threat of a chaotic finish. So yeah, man, that one's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this fight card. I think, like I said, even though it doesn't have the best name value, this is going to be an epic night of fights. There's going to be a lot of finishes. I think there's a lot of opportunities for getting some people priced down inside the distance, that kind of thing. This is going to be a fun one, man. I appreciate you jumping on the show and breaking down this week's fight card with me.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I love doing the show. It seems like the viewers always love when we collab on something as well. So yeah, always happy to provide the entertainment for everybody and hopefully give you guys some good information and knowledge going into this weekend. And hopefully we can cash some tickets at the betting window this week.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And we have just dipped from 300 live viewers to 75 live viewers, and those 25 people missed their shot. We're going to do one more giveaway here before we close out the show. Everybody jam your T-shirt comments in the chat. We're going back to the old school blind, face covered, eyes shut process. I'm going to pick a couple winners before we get out of here for a little bit more swag. So everybody get in there. Everybody get in the chat. Start pounding. I got to wait and see when they start actually typing because there we go. All right, scrolling. Now I'm scrolling. All right, here we go. Magic finger time. Somebody's going to get one. Oh, shoot. I scrolled up too far. Sorry, guys. I'm in like real comments. There we go. We have got Parker Hayden. T-shirt winner, my guy Parker Hayden. Thank you very much. And remember, if you tuned in too late, we got hats coming. So T-shirt or hat, hit me up on social media. Your choice. One more. Here we go. SKD.
You didn't even spell it correctly, but shout out to SKD. Let's give it to him.
I know, right? Should be disqualified for not spelling T-shirt correct.
That guy is a solid supporter, so let's give it to him.
Absolutely. Much deserving. Thank you all so much for spending your Monday night with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are awesome. Lock, absolutely one of my favorite top-tier guests to have on the show. We love when you come break this whole thing down. I think we found some good spots this week, man. I think this is one of those cards where we might have been able to wiggle our way through the traps, try and stay away from the landmines, and we got a couple of half-decent opportunities to make some cash. So, hey, I know you got some shows coming up. You've got some live streams going down. So make sure you tell the people, man, where can they find you throughout the rest of the week here?
Yeah, tomorrow night I'm actually going to be doing my solo show, the MMA Lockcast Live. That should be going down at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Thursday, I'll be in Vegas, and as soon as I land and get to my hotel, I'll be doing my Propping You Up show with my guy John Stargarian. If you guys weren't around for the announcement, Cody is going to be doing the pay-per-view episodes with me, and John will be stepping in to do the Fight Night episode. So Thursday, I believe we're going to be doing it 4 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And then Friday, I'm doing the Ultimate Weigh-In show. I'm going to be having some guests live with me in Vegas. Can't announce it yet because I still need to confirm it, but I'm going to have a couple of people live with me, and we're going to be doing the Ultimate Weigh-In show for you guys right after the weigh-ins. And then Fight Day live chat, 1 p.m. Eastern is when I'm going to be doing a quick 30-minute Q&A for the fights that are going to be going down in a couple of hours. So yeah, I got 4 to 5 streams going down this week, staying busy, but I can't wait to break it all down for you guys from a props perspective, from a solo perspective, and then having these guests on with me as well. Clint, appreciate you as always having me on, man. It's always super fun. Love the chat, love the love that people are giving to us every single time that we do something together, and I can't wait for the next one. Last thing I'm going to say, people keep asking for the toga. The toga is in May. Toga party is May every year. We have decided that is an anniversary or a yearly thing that we're going to be doing, and it's
annual toga party.
Exactly, in May. So wait till May of next year for the next toga party, guys.
And man, it's so funny. My wife is literally sending me text notifications right now. She's like, "Are you done yet? Hurry up and let the man go pee." Like she's looking out for you. She's trying to get me off the show so you can go get a break.
Shout out Mrs. Diehard. I appreciate you looking after my bladder, but I'm lucky enough that I can keep it together until the end of the show.
You're all set. Hey, late dono from our guy King Huber here. Thank you very much, my friend. We appreciate it more than you know. Definitely keeping on the lights here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Justin T, hit me up on social media, either on Twitter or on Instagram. Let me know it was you. I need your shipping info and all that kind of stuff. So that's where you'll find me.
So many random people hitting you up now saying I'm Justin T. So
don't put that out there, Lock. That's not.
It's gonna happen.
I wrote it down. I've got a list. I know who the winners are. Nobody try any shit. If you come on, good faith. We're doing giveaways. Good faith. Don't be trying to steal someone else's shirt. All right. Thank you all so much for spending Monday with me. We went long tonight on a show that, I mean, realistically, if you expect us to go a half hour over, this would not be the fight that you expected us to go half over on. But we had fun. I hope you all enjoyed it. Smash the like button, subscribe, follow both of us on Twitter. We'll be around all week, so we will see you guys. Have a good one. Good luck on all your degenerate action, and let's roll.